San Diego, it's time to fire it up. From the beaches to the ballparks, from the Gaslamp to North County, no one knows America's finest city like he does.
You can't just punt on a Manny Machado prime year.
He's a fourth-generation San Diegan, born and raised in the heart of this community. Passionate, opinionated, and always bringing you the real talk on your teams, your city, and everything in between.
Braden totally knows his stuff. He's ready for the next step. That guy is good.
Live and local, it's the Braden Surprenant Show.
But I think Braden's one of the up-and-coming young stars in the media game in San Diego.
Now, here's your host, Braden Surprenant.
What's up, San Diego? And happy Thursday to everybody out there in America's finest city. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. This is the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each and every day on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Well, we got some big Padres news today, huh, Frank?
Yeah, Yu Darvish had surgery.
From Ramon Laureano.
Yeah, Ramon
They
Laureano's back.
They picked up his option.
What do you want to talk about?
Is that what everybody's tuned in for?
Yes.
Ramon Laureano being part of the Padres?
Welcome back.
All
Welcome
right.
back, Cotter.
Let's talk about this. All right. I want to preface this by saying, okay, I like Craig Stammen. I really like Craig Stammen. I think Craig Stammen is a great guy. It sounds like he's a great teammate. I don't know what kind of teammate he is. I wasn't on any of his teams. I've interviewed Craig before. I've seen him around the clubhouse. I'm telling you right now, I like Craig Stammen. The guy's a great man. Craig Stammen and his story is actually really incredible. Craig Stammen went to Dayton. He went to the University of Dayton to play baseball. And before that, he really didn't have too much of a chance to play college baseball. I actually did a report on this back when I was doing the pre- and post-game show. Craig Stammen, in high school, the only reason why his only offer he got was Dayton. The only reason why he got the offer to go to Dayton was because Dayton was there to watch him pitch, but really, not really him pitch. They were there to watch somebody else play. And then Craig did such a great job in this high school game. It was the only offer that he got. And so he goes to Dayton. And the same thing could really be said about the way he was able to get picked up by the Nationals and then eventually to the San Diego Padres. Guy had a great major league career. I think he's a great man. But I don't understand this hire at all. I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me. It really doesn't. And again, I said, I like Craig Stammen. But when we're talking about the San Diego Padres and we're talking about where they're at right now and what they need in a manager, I do not understand this hire. I don't get it. Now, I don't hope that he fails. I hope he does a really good job. I really do. I hope he does a really good job. And you're rooting for the guy, right? Because if you're not rooting for the guy, then I don't know. I mean, you should probably stop being a Padres fan. But I think with all the names that were listed and with everybody that was around, I just, to me, this was a hire that really catches me off guard. If Craig Stammen was listed like AJ Ellis was listed at the beginning part of the season or the beginning part of this kind of process, I'd be like, okay, makes a lot of sense. This goes in line with the Nick Hundley hire. You know, if they decided to hire Nick Hundley, this would kind of be the same reaction I think a lot of people would have about the hire. It's a safe hire. It's not a win the press conference hire. I don't think the Padres are winning the press conference with this hire. I really don't. As you can tell by the people in our chat, they don't seem super excited about it. There's a couple people that are excited, but not really. This wasn't the splash that the Padres needed. This wasn't the big hire that they needed. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Now, from that perspective, it honestly doesn't really matter what we all think. What matters, especially for a manager in Major League Baseball, is what the players think. And the players have, at least on social media a couple of times, and who knows if they're just being nice or not. I mean, Joe Musgrove's fired up right now on Instagram. He posted it. Right guy, right time. Joe Musgrove, I'm going to tell you guys right now, knows a lot more about this Padres organization than any of us do. You kind of have to trust in some of these players and what they think about Craig. I think the pitching staff's thrilled. I think the pitching staff is thrilled to have a guy like Craig Stammen. The pitching staff loves Craig Stammen. But the thing that's going to be the difference to me and whether or not Craig Stammen is the right man for the job is how Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis Jr. react to this and how they play next year. And the thing is, you got to give the guy a chance. You got to give the guy a chance. But with the dangling of the carrot of Albert Pujols and then maybe even Ruben Niebla, and, I think some people started to get a little bit on board with Nick Hundley, but not really. To go with Craig Stammen, the fourth guy. Remember that we were talking about mystery manager. I thought last night, yesterday, with talking about the fourth guy, and what's taking so long, maybe Torey Lovello, maybe they're trying to pull what they did with Bob Melvin. But I just it didn't make any sense in terms of right now. If they made this move, it's different because Craig was still playing. There's a lot of question marks with Craig Stammen. I think he's probably, from what we've told, he's a great baseball guy. He's probably going to be, we heard from AJ Preller on the morning show. The guy is so prepared. That's great. That's great news. This organization right now needs somebody to get the best out of Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis Jr. and Xander Bogaerts and the guys that are the big paid guys. That's what needs to happen. So if they believe that Craig Stammen is the guy to do that, then then they think this is a great hire. I mean, they obviously think it's a great hire. They hired the guy. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I think he's a great man. I think he's a great baseball player. He had a great career, but I have to be missing something here. I have to be missing something. And I understand why Padres fans are upset. There's a reason why they should be upset. It's a very head-scratching move. I don't know how many times that organizations constantly well, he's a great baseball guy and he's so prepared and all this and all that. I need to make sure that my players that I paid a lot of money to be the leaders of this team and the best on this team, the manager needs to be able to make those guys feel comfortable, feel happy, and get the most out of them. That's what a manager does in Major League Baseball. Do we believe that Craig Stammen is going to get the most and the best out of Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis Jr.? That is the conversation. If you believe that is the case, then you're fired up for Craig Stammen. If you do not believe that's the case, I can understand why you're a little nervous about this. I'm a little nervous about this. He got a 3-year deal. That's good news. If they would have pulled some crap that the Angels did and gave this guy a 1-year deal, I would have lost my mind. I would have lost my mind. At least they gave him a 3-year deal. And hopefully they sign AJ Preller to a contract extension. We're still waiting on that. I mean, Ben asked him about it at the end of the interview. He said exactly everything that he would really say in general. We don't talk about negotiation. We don't talk about that in the public eye. Which is fine. But here's the thing with Craig Stammen, okay? And here's the part. Again, I don't understand it. I agree with a lot of you in the chat. To me, he's going to have to earn my liking of it because I'm not super into it right now. It is what it is. I don't. It's not the hire that I thought was coming for the Padres. This is not the conversation of we're looking for a guy that's going to manage the team for the next 10 years. The name that I was thinking about was not Craig Stammen. That's not who I was thinking about. You went with the veteran guys for the last couple of years, right? With Bob Melvin and with Mike Schilt. I didn't mind the Albert Pujols being a brand new manager because I thought he brought something to what the current team is and what they needed. That's why that one made sense. I didn't mind Ruben Niebla never managing before, but guess what? He's been on the staff in the dugout for the last, 3, 4, 5 years. You would have seen some continuity with it. I know he's been around. Craig has. He's played with these guys. And he's been in the front office, and Mike Schilt wanted to surround his team with all these former players. I get that. But to me, it's that wasn't the first-year hire I was thinking they would potentially do. But this is how I feel. I feel with you Padres fans. And look, you know what? It's day one, And I got to hear what Craig's got to say. He can win me over in the press conference. I like Craig Stammen. I'm going to keep telling people this over and over and over again. I like the guy. I think he's a good baseball guy. I think he's a great man. I think his life that he lived and the story that he has is impeccable. I just don't understand this timing right now. But you know what? We got to let it play out. You got to let it play out. You got to see both sides to it. The fact that Joe Musgrove is excited about this, I think, is good. You know, I know nobody in this YouTube chat likes Eric Hosmer. He tweeted out about how he was the favorite teammate of Eric Hosmer of all time. You know, that might sway some Padres fans a different way, but you know what? It's being talked about. There is a lot of players that are excited about this hire. Now, here's the thing. How can a guy like Craig Stammen, who's teammates with these guys, now be a, quote, authoritative figure in some capacity? That's going to be the biggest question. Because, again, when it comes to managers in Major League Baseball, they are guys that manage the clubhouse, keep morale good, and it's not a lot of the X's and O's. I believe Craig Stammen is going to help with the X's and O's. He's going to be prepared. I think from that perspective of managing a bullpen, you're probably going to be okay. And you could go back to, Stephen Vogt for the Guardians is having a good time. Maybe this is the next Stephen Vogt. Maybe he turns into a Bruce Bochy type of manager long term. I mean, these are just outlandish claims, but you just never know until it happens. And now we're going to see Craig Stammen's product on the field. So my initial reaction was, I don't like it. I think it's a safe hire. It's not the hire that the Padres needed right now. That's my initial reaction. But I'm curious and excited to see what could potentially come about this. I think the fact that the Padres players being excited about it helps a little bit. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what us fans think. It depends on those 26 dudes in that clubhouse and what they think. And so if they're all for it, I'm all for it. And right now, there's a handful of Padres players that are excited about this. But we'll see what happens. I don't think a fire sale's coming. I don't think, there's a lot of conspiracies going on in the YouTube chat right now. I understand where the frustration comes from. Because it didn't make a lot of sense seeing that. When you saw the scoop today, and I don't even know the guy's name. I forgot the guy. It's something Jones. What's the guy's name?
It's like Matt Jones or something.
Matt
like that.
Jones? Yeah. I was like, wow, this is kind of outlandish. This is kind of out of nowhere. And then all of a sudden, Kevin Acee, Craig Stammen, I was like, all right, here we go. We're going to do this. So, I don't know. You have to support what they got. This is what they're going with. This is your favorite team. And this is the decision they're going to make. Now, later on the show, we'll play some clips from AJ Preller. We want to get to your phone calls. 833-288-0973. 833-288-0973. Tell us how you feel. I told you how I felt. To me right now, it doesn't make sense for the current team of what they want. But you know what? He's a great baseball man, and you got to give him a fair shake. And there's a reason why the organization trusts in him and wants him to be able to be the manager. And here's the other thing, too. My biggest concern is about the two highest paid stars on the team. Fernando and AJ Preller. Fernando and Manny Machado, right? I would imagine they probably asked them about this before they made the hire. And if that's part of the equation, then it's part of the equation. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Give us a phone call. Let me know what you think. Frank, your reaction to today, aside from the fact that our entire show is different now.
Not the greatest. I mean, and this is the same thing we discussed yesterday, and we discussed about Nick Hudley. This is a great hire 4 or 5 years ago. It is not the right hire for this team right now. It just isn't. This is not the guy that is going to get you fired up. It's just not. I mean, it's got you fired up just in a different way than what you would have wanted. This is the most baffling decision that I have seen this team make in quite some time. And I've seen this team and my team make some pretty baffling decisions. This is right up there. Great. I love the fact that people love him. I love the fact that the players are on his side. I love all of that. It's great. It didn't. Why now? Why right now? What do they see in Craig Stammen that I clearly don't see? What do they see in Craig Stammen that has convinced them that they are going to get over the hump with him leading the helm? What convinced them?
That's the thing, is it doesn't match up what they're looking for in a manager kind of conversation, right? It's just the whole thing.
It does match up with the long-term hire because Stammen's only 41. So that fits the mold of a
maybe with age, but like
right,
when
that
you
fits the mold of a
when you
long-term
say that
hire.
you're looking for a 10-year guy,
you're obviously not looking for a Don Mattingly who's in his 70s.
right? Well, you're also not looking for a Bruce Bochy, any of those guys. But then all of these other candidates were younger. The Nick Hundleys of the world and the Albert Pujols of the world. And,
so that
even Ruben Niebla is relatively young.
That fits as far as the looking for a long-term manager, a guy who can be here for years, the next Bruce Bochy, the next Bud Black, who could be here forever. Other than that, I mean, it doesn't make sense from a fan perspective. It does not make sense for everything we were fed, everything that we have discussed. The only name we heard was Albert Pujols. The only name we heard coming with him was Yadier Molina. Then you had the next best pick, which was Ruben Niebla, who was the only other guy you heard about. And then you heard about Esposito as an afterthought, as like, oh yeah, Esposito got an interview also a couple days ago. This makes no sense to the fan why they hired him. Not a lick of sense.
And this is the deal. This is our natural reaction to it. No, I don't think there's going to be a fire sale. No, I think the world is not, the sky is not falling.
No, you're not. No.
But this is Frank and I's natural reaction to the situation. That doesn't mean we don't support Craig Stammen. I think Craig has the ability to be a really good manager. It just, at this point in time and where the organization is and what they're looking for, that's the thing that's the most head scratching to us.
Instead of Jace Tingler, yeah, that would have been perfect.
So we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to hear from you fans. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. We're off and running. Braden Surprenant Show. Padres hire Craig Stammen to be their manager. Your reactions when we come back. August the 970 The Fan. Join us on the David P. Shapiro Fan Hotline. David P. Shapiro, criminal defense attorneys helping good people regain control of their future when charged with a crime since 2010. Visit davidpshapirolaw.com. So, that was the natural reaction to the hiring of Craig Stammen. It's very interesting. It's a very surprising hire, I thought. But at the same time, as much as there's a lot of question marks with the hire, there's a lot of positives of this hire, too. And this is why, again, at the beginning, it was, here's the natural reaction we're going to have. But this is why it's going to work out and why it's a good hire for the Padres. Because there's both sides to this story. I can understand why fans would be upset. But at the same time, you got to understand that this is the right hire for the Padres from this perspective. This is somebody that is well prepared. This is somebody that puts the time and the effort in. This is somebody that's been around the organization. This is somebody that has had the playing experience. And to be honest with you, Craig Stammen is the guy that is basically all three of the candidates that you knew about put into one. He has the experience of playing in Major League Baseball. They know that he has experience playing in Major League Baseball. Had big moments for the San Diego Padres in his career. That's number one. Number two, so you could go with the experience that like Albert Pujols has. It's different experience, but you know what? He's got experience playing at the Major League level. He can relate to the players. He also is a guy that has been part of the organization. That's like the Ruben Niebla aspect. Somebody that is part of the organization, keeps the consistency of what the Padres had built over the last handful of years. That's another big pro. And again, it's not like he was just sitting in the front office distant from everybody else. He's there. He was there in the clubhouse with these guys for the last handful of years. So he's part of the organization. You start talking about the X's and O's of everything, as much as catchers always have that bright spot, the bullpen's doing the same thing. He's the one that's putting the ball in play every single time as a pitcher. So there's a lot of good things about it. And here's the thing. My biggest concern about this is how does he go about managing the big stars on this team? And to me, the Padres probably did their due diligence in getting those players on board with what the hire was. I don't think they're hiring anybody without letting their players know about it. I really don't. Especially the ones that they've invested a lot of money in. Guys like Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis Jr. Every player so far that we've seen on social media react to this hire loves it. They love it. They think it's great. I told you what Joe Musgrove said. Right man, right time. Loved it. So as much as the natural reaction is, I can't believe this, at the same time, there's a lot of pros for this as well. It wasn't just it wasn't a disaster of a hire. It wasn't a disaster of a hire. It's a safe hire. It keeps everything going in the right direction that they built from the get-go. And when you're a Padres fan, you have your reactionary periods, right? And everything seems like it's falling, and I can't believe this. In a couple of days, it's going to be fine anyway. Because you got to let this guy do his job and believe in what he can do. And again, there was question marks with everybody's hiring. There was question marks of whether or not Albert Pujols would be able to manage a team at the major league level and not have any situation in which, like, ego gets involved. Remember the ego conversation we had? And sometimes guys that played at a very high level expect other players to be able to play at this or do the same things that they are able to do. It's never the case. Ruben Niebla, there's question marks about him being a first-time manager. I'm interested to see if Ruben Niebla is still going to be part of this organization after this.
Alden Gonzalez just confirmed 12 minutes ago that he will be the pitching coach.
That's even better news. So now you don't even lose Ruben Niebla. Now you have multiple pitchers as part of this staff. The pitching staff is going to be in good hands. So Ruben's still here, and they're going to put the staff together, and they're going to be able to put together a winning team in 2026, I should say. So a lot of different things involved with this. Again, initially surprising, a lot of question marks, but right now there's a lot of positive things with Craig Stammen too. And you start reading up on Craig Stammen from all the players that he had played with him and guys that are currently on this team, and a lot of them are really excited about this. Craig Stammen is the new Padres manager. And so from a perspective of shock, it's very shocking. But now an opportunity to see what he's got as the manager. And I can't wait to hear him talk. I want to know what he has to say about this. I want to know what he's got in line. I can't wait to see this. And I said that in the last segment. Everybody's upset at the beginning. Potentially, it's breaking news. It's shocking news. But until he speaks and until he puts his product on the field, you can't really be that upset about it. And anybody, and I saw this earlier and I totally agree, anybody that thinks they know how a first-year manager will do before the season even starts doesn't know what they're talking about. He could be one of the best managers in Major League Baseball and go the path of a lot of these other former players that have recently gotten hired and have done a great job, like Stephen Vogt in Cleveland. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. We're going to continue the conversation as we continue on the Braden Surprenant Show. San Diego's #1 sports station, 97 through the Fan. This hour of Sports Talk is brought to you by SD Collectibles. Get ready, sports and Pokemon collectors. SD Collectibles Card Show is back at Liberty Station with over 100 vendor tables. November 22nd, 23rd. Find sports cards, Pokemon memorabilia, and more. Visit sdcollectibles.com for info. That's sdcollectibles.com. Obviously, a lot of question marks with this hire, but at the same time, the one thing that really matters the most about this hire, and I keep saying it, and I will continue to keep saying it, it doesn't matter what we think. It matters what the players think. And right now, the players are excited about this, at least the ones that have gone to social media already. So many rearing endorsements from former players of the Padres organization, former teammates of Craig Stammen, who I think is a great guy, and I think is a great baseball guy. And so for all of the surprise at the beginning and some of the negativity at the beginning, the more you look at this hire, the better it becomes for the San Diego Padres. As I mentioned before, he's got all of the question marks that all the other managers had, potential managerial candidates, and he's a guy that the players respect, which is huge. That's the first part of the entire thing. The players have to respect you as manager. And they respected him as a teammate. And some players have gone on to say that he has been the most, or should I say their favorite teammate of all. He has experience within the organization. He never left. He's been part of this organization for a long time. He knows, he went through all of this. And through the beginning part of the rebuild to after retiring, being part of the front office, there's a lot of other things about this that are good. Ruben Niebel's coming back as a pitching coach. They're starting to put this thing together. And we'll see what the rest of the coaching staff has. I can't wait to hear what he talks about. And I said in the first segment, I got to hear what this guy has to say. AJ Preller did on the morning show talk about all the good things about it, why it came to this conclusion, why it was the right spot for the managerial hire. And the more I look at it, the more I realize it's a good, it's not a bad hire. It's a surprising hire, but it's not a bad hire. And I think with the four candidates that they had, all of them were going to be good hires. I thought the Padres are going to be in a good spot with all of those guys. I said it for the last 2 weeks. I thought Albert Pujols would be a good hire. I thought he'd be a great hire. I thought Ruben Niebel would keep things consistent. I thought he would be a good hire. I thought Nick Hundley would be a good hire. And now Craig Stammen has an opportunity to lead this team to do something for the first time that they've never done. So I was going to give you the negative and then flip it to the positive. And the positive is everybody wants to freak out about this particular move. The positive thing here is the Padres have found their manager, and now we can go with it. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Let's get out to Juan in Oceanside. Juan, you're on the Braden Surprenant Show. What's going on?
What's up, Braden? What's up, Frank? Just have an initial reaction on the Craig Stammen hire. I feel like this hire, my personal reaction to this hire is very similar to what it would have been, whether it was Niebla or even Pujols to that extent, where I'm just more curious to know who the bench coach is going to be, because no matter what, all of these hires were going to be first-year hires. And I think an experienced bench coach working in tandem with a Craig Stammen is the thing that is, I guess, more pertinent in the moment. And also, I'm just glad he's not Carlos Mendoza.
Hit the shot in it, Frank. That's the situation. It didn't really matter what the hire was because it was going to be a natural reaction to everybody that was a Padres fan. But I tell you what, and I mentioned it to start the show about how crazy of a story it is for Craig Stammen and how big of a story it is for Craig Stammen and what a great opportunity it is for Craig Stammen. I mean, nobody has said any bad things about Craig Stammen. Not one. Not one. Craig Stammen has been just from all ports of Major League Baseball excited about Craig Stammen. I mean, I can't tell you how many stories we've heard from players about the teammate that Craig Stammen was. Now, a big question is, can he flip that from being a teammate to now being the leader of the team? We'll see. And I'm curious to see how this goes. Again, I can't wait for the press conference. I got to hear what Craig Stammen has to say. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Let's get out to Martin and Santee. Martin, you're on the Braden Surprenant Show. What's going on?
Good morning, guys. Quite a morning in San Diego today. I think, to me, Braden and Frank, I think the most disappointing is, and hear me out on this, is the lack of transparency from the Padres that this would have given us as fans an opportunity maybe over the last couple of weeks to know that his name was in the hopper, to get to know him a little better, to take a look at the positives that you've described about him this morning. And I think that's what disappoints me the most, is that Preller and the front office didn't come out and let us know who the real candidates were. You know, I'm sure they all had an opportunity, but, you know, I'm going with your feeling. I'm going with the thought that he's a good guy. You've spoken with him before. And also, too, that Niebla's sticking around. So, you know, two major parts of the puzzle are in place. And your show and the others have talked about the team. I mean, the team is virtually in place. Yeah, we need slugging, we need pitchers. But again, I think if the fan base would have had an opportunity to kind of work through his name over the past couple of weeks, the chat wouldn't be blowing up with all the negative like it is now. Maybe it still would, but we knew he would be in the picture. And I think that's what's most disappointing to me, is that they just didn't come out and say that he was on our list. But anyway, good stuff. I appreciate all the background on him. I remember him as a player for sure, but hearing your opinion as to the person that he is, I think he's, you know, and we're fans. This is our team. And he is our leader. So fan base, let's just go with what we have, and we, you know, we'll hear more on Monday. So anyway, great show, great start. Passion as always appreciated. So have a good rest of the day, you too.
Martin, appreciate the phone call. The thing with the thing with Martin is, like, you can't have the organization tell you everything they're doing. You got to keep some of that stuff behind behind closed doors. And you know what? I think the Padres do a great job doing that. This is the third one in a row where nobody has any idea what the Padres are going to do. And I think that's for the better. And they took the time to make all of these decisions. I think a lot of us wanted to see it a lot earlier, but I think it brought up a good point yesterday. If the finalists that were mentioned were the guy, you knew they would have hired them already. And it was that fourth mystery candidate that ended up being the one for the Padres. They went through the process. They interviewed many of candidates, and this is the guy that they found. And I'm sure through all of this, it was something that they talked about with the players and talked about with the rest of the organization. And this is a guy that, the more I talk about it, honestly, with the way that his story and him as a person and what he did as a major league player and what all of the people that have played with him have said, the more I'm getting bought into talking myself off the ledge of what the initial reaction was. And I think they've done a good job. So we'll see what this press conference is, whenever that happens to be. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Let's get out to Lou in Lucadia. Lou, you're on the Braden Surprenant Show. What's going on?
Yeah, I like this hire. I was apprehensive about Mike Schilt initially. I thought it was from left field. I didn't know who he was. And he turned out to be an excellent manager. So I'm trusting AJ Preller to get the job done. My only concern, if I could get your opinion on this, is he going to be his own man? I mean, we don't need another situation like Jerry Jones calling in plays to the manager of the Cowgirls. Is he going to be his own man, do you think?
I think, I think the Padres do a good job of letting the manager do their job. There was a little bit of, when Bob Melvin left, there was a little bit of a rift, but I don't think there's anything that Mike Schilt said or that happened with Mike Schilt that showed that he didn't have any. I mean, he looked like a guy that had full control of that team. And that, what? I think they're going to let Craig Stammen do that too. And we don't know until you start seeing the product on the field. And until that point, I mean, it's going to all be speculation of what it could be. Now, Craig Stammen is going to talk and be introduced on Monday at 10 in the morning. We're going to carry it live, commercial free on Monday, and we're going to hear from this guy. The same thing happens all the time. You get the initial reaction, people freak out, and then once you start listening to that, I mean, you have to be able to listen to the manager because people are just assuming that he is the bullpen arm that he was for the Padres. And remember, he was a great bullpen arm in his first couple of years of the Padres. I mean, obviously near the end, when he started to get a little bit older, things changed a little bit. But until you start to listen to Craig Stammen as a manager, it's going to be hard to fathom him being the manager of the Padres for a lot of people. But like I said, this is a guy that was potentially done playing baseball in high school, balled out in a game in which the University of Dayton was in attendance, gave him a scholarship. He went and played at Dayton, and then went on to have a great baseball career, 12-year career, and is now the San Diego Padres manager. And he signed for a 3-year deal. That's faith in him and faith in the organization with this hire. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Let's get to Matt in San Diego. Matt, you're on the Braden Surprenant Show. What's going on?
Braden, I just want to say I don't hate this hire. Obviously, I don't think there's ever really a manager that's not like Terry Francona or something where you get him and you're like, oh, this is amazing. But I don't understand all of the instant doom and the instant like, oh, we're winning 60 games and it's over. Because, I mean, what did you want in Albert Pujols? You wanted someone that players knew and would command respect being a former player. You get that with Craig Stammen while maintaining the continuity throughout the organization, while keeping the coaching staff. Everyone seems to forget that Albert Pujols would absolutely spell the end of Ruben Niebla and trashing or throwing out a coaching staff that has worked. You've made playoffs 4 of the last 6 years, obviously not all those coaches, but the continuity has worked because in baseball, it's about getting to the playoffs, because once you get to the playoffs, anything can happen. So it's getting as many cracks at the playoffs as you can. And the way things are set up now, you're doing that. And so instead of rocking the boat and changing everything with a guy like Albert Pujols, when you didn't necessarily want to, I mean, you wanted the continuity with Mike Schilt. Mike Schilt said no. So you're not necessarily just going to take that, oh, now we're hiring a manager, let's throw it all out and restart. No, you get a guy who's familiar with the organization, who's familiar with the players, who's going to give you that aspect you wanted out of an Albert Pujols, and a guy who's consistent with the organization. Because everyone's now throwing out puppet. Only folks realize that the manager position is different. It is not Earl Weaver getting the keys to the organization and making every single decision. It's several people, all part of an organization, making decisions towards a goal. And I think we saw with Bomel, I think, while not as prevalent, you saw it with Schilte, there was a clash kind of in the approaches, and Schilte did some things that were pretty old school, didn't necessarily make sense with the approach. And so everyone's saying puppet like it's a bad thing. I see it as continuity throughout the organization, one vision going into one goal of winning a World Series. And so I think this is a much better hire than Albert Pujols, and I really don't think it's that crazy as a loud minority is saying. I mean, ultimately, it's a manager. We're going to see what happens. If your team suddenly wins 70 games, I don't think your manager was going to affect that. But no, I think it makes sense to have the initial reaction and then, think it through and think it's going to be fine. Like either way, it's going to be fine. It makes sense. I think it's pretty consistent. Obviously, it didn't leak out, but they weren't leaking out anything. And I think it's even more clear that the leaks were surrounding the candidates. Albert Pujols is a popular guy. Information's going to come out. And so while it seems like they pulled the rug out, I think it's kind of the other way around. They went in with a goal. They came out with the guy they wanted. And I think AJ Preller has earned the faith to see how it goes, because he has turned the Padres into what they were before, into a relevant baseball team that's making playoffs over and over again. So I think it'll be all right.
Matt, I appreciate the phone call. Matt brings up a good point with the comparison, because everybody, I think that's, they see the name Albert Pujols, and we were one of those people like, oh, wow, Albert Pujols, this seems like a for sure hire. All the question marks you have with Craig Stammen, you had with Albert Pujols. They're the exact same question marks. The only difference is Craig Stammen's been part of the organization, and so you get the stability. And for everybody that says that Ruben Niebla's leaving, it's already been reported that he's staying. So you get to keep Ruben Niebla. You get a former player that the players do respect, at least that they've been saying, right? They respected him as a teammate. And you get kind of the best of both worlds of potentially having Niebla and Albert Pujols. Sure, there's a lot more that comes with Albert Pujols in terms of like his overall career numbers. But when you look at Craig Stammen and what he has and what he can bring to the Padres in terms of a former player and somebody that's seen things from the beginning or see things from a different perspective, it makes it work out. And again, I got to hear what he says at the press conference. And that's on Monday at 10 in the morning, which will air here on the airwaves. But again, I was shocked by the hire. I thought it was surprising. But as surprising as it is, and your initial reaction is like that, you can't make a judgment on this until things start playing out. And so it's a good day for Padres baseball. You get a new manager. We understand what the situation is. Ruben Niebla is going to be part of this team as the pitching coach. And this is one thing that they needed to get done before free agency opens up tomorrow. We're going to keep taking your phone calls throughout. We're going to keep this conversation going. We also will hear from AJ Preller, who was on the morning show, talking about the process of hiring Craig Stammen. But overall, we've had a lot of good, and with all the negative that's been out there too, there's a lot of positive, and I think a lot of fans are starting to realize why this hire was the hire that needed to be done for the Padres and why it's going to get them to the point of potentially winning a World Series. Again, this is the hire this is the guy that needs to come in and give us something that we've never accomplished before, and that's winning a World Series. Again, can't wait to hear what he's got to say. Optimistic about it. I think the more we talk about this, the more positive it's going to get for Padres fans. 11 a.m. hour. We'll continue the conversation. Braden Surprenant Show. San Diego's #1 sports station, 97 through the Fan. August of 97 through the Fan. Join us on the David P. Shapiro Fan Hotline. David P. Shapiro, criminal defense attorneys, helping good people regain control of their future when charged with a crime since 2010. Visit davidpshapirolaw.com. Reacting to the hiring of Craig Stammen here on the 97.3 The Fan. Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each and every day from 10 to 2 on San Diego's number one sports station, 97.3 The Fan. So for all the negative that a lot of people have been talking about with the particular hire, there's a lot of positive to this as well. And the thing that's positive about it is I like the fact that a lot of the players are backing this. Now, a lot of them probably aren't going to speak their mind fully on social media, but the fact that Ruben Abel is staying and the relationship that he's going to have with Craig Stammen, I've seen some comments on Joe Musgrove about how they're going to work well together. And he believes that they're going to work well together. But Craig Stammen is the new Padres manager. And here's the thing. With all the initial reactions from everybody, including us, there's a reason why they hired this guy. The Padres have made good hires in their last couple of hires. And if it wasn't for Mike Shildt retiring, they would have had to make another hire. And they went through the process and they did everything that they needed to do to get to this point in time. And Craig Stammen is probably the right man for the job. It's just different. I think a lot of Padres fans were expecting to be somebody else. And so with all of the negative that goes around this, there's a lot of positive too. We talked about it. Every one of these manager candidates was going to be somebody that was going to be a risk. We talked about that yesterday with signings, all taking major risks. And so the risk that you take with Craig Stammen, first-year manager, and he was teammates with a lot of these players in the clubhouse. Not all of them, but a decent amount. And there's really only a handful of them left from that 2022 team or anybody that's played in the last handful of years. The question is, and the question I have with all of these hires was, because I thought this was the most important thing, are they going to get the most out of the top two players on this team? And that is Fernando Tatis Jr. and Manny Machado. And if that is the case, then it's going to work out. If it's not the case, then they might be looking for a new manager again. But that's how I viewed this entire hiring process. Now, they brought in somebody that was teammates with these guys, that has been part of the organization. They've seen him around. They know everything about Craig Stammen. There's really nothing more to say about that. And so now you wait for the press conference, and then you get to hear what Craig Stammen has to do. 833-288-0973. 833-288-0973. Let's get out to Derek in La Mesa. Derek, you're on the Braden Surprenant Show. What's going on?
What's going on, fellas? You guys doing good today?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Beautiful. Hey, doing well. Hey, didn't dig it at first, not going to lie, because I think I was just enamored with the Pujols-Yachty combination. I thought that would have been great. But for me, as a Padre fan, the only buy-off I need is No Joe. Hey, if Musgrove is on board, I'm in. Now, I would, and I hope, with Mattingly leaving Toronto, I think it would be fantastic to bring a guy like him in, especially since we lost our hitting coach, to bring Mattingly in maybe as a bench coach, and he can help with the hitting. You know, wasn't a bad hitter in his day. But yeah, that's all I got. You know what? If No Joe says it's okay, then it's okay with me.
I agree with that. And that's what I brought up in the first segment of the show, too. I mean, it doesn't really matter what we think. Joe Musgrove is a guy that is well respected in that clubhouse. He is a guy that is a leader of that team, and he's fired up about it. And he likes the way everything's been put together with this particular hire. And if Joe Musgrove's on board, we're on board. I mean, again, it's just, you start seeing all of these players that have reached out and have said something publicly about Craig Stammen. They're all good things. All good things. 833-288-0973. 833-288-0973. Adrian in San Diego, you're on the Braden Surprenant Show. What's going on?
Hey, good morning, Braden. Just want to make a couple quick points. So Stammen's got the grit. He's got the heart. I remember him as a player. he would have rolled into a starting position for us. He'll pitch the first, he'll pitch the ninth, he'll pitch the middle. He'll do whatever he can for San Diego, and that's what I remember about Stammen. The one thing that I'm kind of happy about that we didn't hire Albert Pujols is comes with a lot of glitz and glamour. You know, there's a lot of I feel Hollywoodish with Pujols just because he is who he is and has the history of what he has. So I just don't think that we needed that extra load. And let's go Pods. We're ready.
I think so too. AJ, appreciate the phone call. Again, I think more and more people are starting to see what we're seeing here with this hire. The Albert Pujols thing, again, there was major question marks and people were worried about it as we were leading this into in his 9.5-hour interview he had about was he going to be able to not be a distraction with just his star power, right? I mean, he is a big name in Major League Baseball. Is that going to take away from the team? That was a major question mark. Can he manage at a major league level? I mean, every one of these candidates was going to be a brand new manager. So again, you get all of the pros of the other three that were mentioned all put into one with Craig Stammen. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Let's get out to Philip in La Mesa. Philip, you're on the Braden Surprenant Show. What's going on?
Yeah, thank you for taking my call. I don't know what to think. Been a Padres fan since '69 and season tickets since '69. I don't know. It's time to get over the hump, and I don't want to think we're just starting over again. This first-time manager with no experience is a little bit of a cause for concern. I just hope it's not a money issue as far as the front office. They keep raising the prices, for all our season ticket holders. And I just hope it's not a money issue that he was kind of on the cheap. I mean, I don't think that's the case because I like what San Diego's doing. I don't know. I just have my reservations that if we had young stars that were maybe 3 years away from their prime, I could see it. But when you've got aging stars like this, I just don't know if it's time for another first-time manager.
And that's what the finalists were. I mean, but they've had the veteran managers too. First-time managers don't mean that they're going to be not good. And this is not a cheap hire. I mean, managers are all making around the same kind of money anyway. It's not like the Padres were going to have to make a big splash money-wise for a manager. Craig Stammen is not a cheap manager. It's not a cheap hire. I mean, a lot of people think that he might have been cheap. We don't even know what the conversations were negotiation-wise with some of these players. Or should I say former players that are now trying to be managers. You see the news that Albert Pujols couldn't reach an agreement with the Angels. The Angels only gave him a 1-year contract to a manager. Talk about a lack of confidence. It's not a cheap hire. I would say it's a safe hire. And when you do a safe hires are guys that you know they're going to be able to get the job done. They didn't need to make a gigantic splash. And again, the only thing that I think is the biggest knock on Craig Stammen is the whole press conference idea. I think people just sit there and go like, well, he was just on the team. Why are they hiring this guy? That's where a lot of the question marks come from. But you don't get to see Craig Stammen be the manager of the Padres. You don't get to see what he's like in the leadership role. I mean, you're not in the clubhouse every day and see how the stars gravitate towards Craig Stammen. I thought with all of the candidates that they had, they were going to have somebody that was going to put themselves in a position to continue what they've been doing. And that is making the playoffs. And that is having success. And that is having people show up to games. 833-288-0973. 833-288-0973. Let's get out to Terry in San Diego. Terry, what's going on?
What the hell are we doing? I mean, you've got $500 million invested in a bunch of players individually. I mean, this guy is going to go into all of his managing roles with no experience. I mean, talk about second guessing yourself. Am I right? Should I do this? I mean, there's no background in managing. Are the players going to listen when things go wrong? If I'm Ruben Niebla, I'm gone. I'm not staying for this. I mean, how did he get passed over?
Well, Ruben's staying, so that's part of the deal. And I think that's going to help Craig out a little bit. And I'm curious to see who his bench coach is. I mean, if they go out and get a guy like Don Mattingly to be the bench coach, now all of a sudden they're cooking with what they got. Because then you have the experience. And here's the deal. I actually wouldn't mind that at all. And we'll see, because Don Mattingly just walked away from the Blue Jays. And I'm not saying that's who it is, but if you surround Craig Stammen with some other help, you got the pitching side taken care of. But if you get an experienced guy that could be the bench coach, now all of a sudden you're molding this guy into being a young manager that could get things done and learning how to do it too. I mean, that's going to come with all of these guys. All 4 of the managerial candidates were going to be brand new candidates. They were going to be brand new managers. All of them. Albert Pujols, Ruben Niebla, Nick Hundley, all of those. So if your biggest gripe with Craig Stammen is the lack of experience, everybody else is going to have lack of experience. I think he has become, or at least the more you talk about it, the more you think about it, he is the guy that is the best of all of the potential candidates that were released to the public. He is the former player like Albert Pujols. He's part of the organization like Ruben Niebla. He is a tireless, meticulous worker like Nick Hundley. I mean, he was all of them put together. And the best part is the players know about this guy. And from everything we've heard from guys like Joe Musgrove to guys like Eric Hosmer to other players that have played with Craig Stammen, one of the best teammates they've ever had. And that's going to play into other things. We're going to continue the conversation. Hear from a lot of fans. I think we're getting a lot of positive comments now from a lot of fans out there that were nervous at the time of the hire. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Braden Surprenant Show continues on San Diego's number one sports station, 97 through the Fan. can't count on much, but you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. Stream your local NFL game live every Sunday all season long, starting at just $30 for your first year. That's like $250 a month. Visit ParamountPlus.com/NFL to get started today. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. This is the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each and every day from 10 to 2 on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Padres have made a new hire at manager. It is Craig Stammen. So again, the kind of reading the tea leaves the last couple of weeks. I mean, it was that fourth unknown candidate kept lingering around. Stammen, who's 41, received a 3-year contract, selected. This is according to USA Today. I can't imagine this being the case. We didn't hear anything about this. Stammen, 41, who received, this is from Bob Nightingale. Stammen, 41, who received a 3-year contract, was selected ahead of future Hall of Fame manager Bruce Bochy, who had expressed interest, future Hall of Fame player Albert Pujols, who interviewed for 9.5 hours, Cubs bench coach Ryan Flaherty, Padres special assistant Nick Hundley, which is not even true, that he was the special assistant for the Rangers, and the Padres pitching coach Ruben Niebla. Come on, Nightingale. Stammen becomes the 6th full-time manager under general manager AJ Preller, replacing manager Mike Shildt, who parted ways after the season with 2 years and $4 million still remaining on his contract. Stammen, who pitched for the Padres from 17 to 22, has been a special assistant in the Padres baseball ops department the past 2 years. There are still 6 players remaining on the team from his last season as a player: Cronenworth, Darvish, Machado, Musgrove, Morejon, and Fernando Tatis Jr. Craig has been a strong presence in our organization for nearly a decade. Preller said in a statement he possesses deep organizational knowledge and brings natural leadership qualities to the manager's chair. As both a player and in his post-playing career, Craig has displayed an ability to elevate those around him. His strength of character, competitive nature, and talent for bringing people together make him the ideal choice to lead the Padres. Stammen, who sat in some of the managerial interviews, was tremendously popular in San Diego. He was the Padres 2022 nominee for the Roberto Clemente Award, received the Padres 2017 Chairman's Award for his philanthropic efforts, and was the recipient of the 2020 Bob Feller Act of Valor Award. Stammen's stunning hire certainly tops Tony Vitello's hiring in San Francisco, leaving the University of Tennessee for the Giants, and Blake Gutierrez hiring Washington. The only surprise hiring that could top Stammen is if the Rockies turn to Paul DePosta as their GM. He was the Dodgers general manager 20 years ago and has been the Cleveland Browns chief strategy officer the last 10 years, as Nightingale lays out a lot of different things. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Very surprising hire for the Padres. But Craig Stammen brings a lot of intangibles that bring positivity to this particular hire. I think the fact that he's part of the organization brings the continuity. I think the fact that he knows a lot of these players because he played with them brings a lot of positive as well. The fact that they're keeping Ruben Niebla is a good sign. This is the best way forward in terms of keeping everything intact without changing the entire coaching staff and continuing what was started a handful of years ago and now moving forward with the same message, with the same group. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Let's get out to Mike in Imperial Beach. Mike, on the Braden Surprenant Show, what's going on?
Hey, I just think that this is deja vu, and this is Jace Tingler 2.0. I think Craig is an AJ guy, and this is writing on the wall, too, of I think AJ's going to get extension, but he's only going to get 2 to 3 years. And if this doesn't work out with Craig, AJ's gone too. And 3 years, we're going to be looking for another coach and a GM. Very similar to what Angels are doing with Kurt Suzuki and their GM over there. So I think Grupner and the ownership have some ammo now with AJ if this doesn't work out.
Well, Mike, I mean, I think that's a little bit extreme. This is not a hire that's going to be, you know, I'm not. It's not the same. Craig Stammen getting 3 years is huge. I think Craig Stammen getting 3 years is important. It's to show that they are confident in this particular decision. And why wouldn't they be? Now the thing is, you got to get AJ Preller signed under contract. he needs to get his contract extension, and then you let these guys work for the next 3 years. I'd like to know what's going on with the lockout potentially. I mean, from that perspective, that's, who knows if that's going to be a year wasted or not. And we'll see what, because that would be unfair to Craig Stammen too. I think if you were to give Craig Stammen, here's why it's not a cheap hire, and here's why it's not a BS hire that a lot of people are saying. Because they gave him a 3-year deal. If they were trying to go, they would give him a 1-year deal, and then they would let, they would let the contracts expire, and then they move on to the next thing, which is not the case. They gave Craig Stammen a 3-year deal. I think that's positive news. I think that's good news for the organization and the health and the lifeblood of the organization. And again, the fact that he's been part of this organization for as long as he has and has lived in San Diego for as long as he has now is as another bonus to this. There's a lot of different things that bring positive light to this particular situation. I understand why it is shocking and for a lot of fans scary to see a guy that's never done this before and just be part of the front office. I mean, obviously it's not a press conference winner, but we don't know because we don't know what Craig Stammen's got to say. You got to let him talk. You got to let him talk at the press conference, which they're going to do, and let him speak and do it a little bit better. I mean, I think a lot of people, once you listen to Craig Stammen speak, are going to be turned by like, all right, I'm in. I mean, there's obviously some things that he said in these interviews that made him the right choice. And they had good choices all around, but all of those choices had major question marks, as talked about earlier on the show. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Brandon in Carlsbad. You're on the Braden Surprenant Show. What's going on, Brandon?
Hey, guys. Long time no talk. Well, between our old skipper having to walk out for whatever reasons and quit, retire, and then the news about you, and then maybe a guy that we all didn't really kind of have in our sights become the next skipper. It is what it is, Fire Nation. Buckle down and buckle up, because I believe this he's a button-up guy. I mean, we all know that from what you guys have been saying, he's thorough. He knows his stuff. Okay, he hasn't had this head position before, but we're stuck with it now, so we can just blow hot steam. I just want to pin it before I die. Friar Nation, that's all. I just want to pin it. Tired of the complaining. We already got to deal with those guys up north. I'm not even going to say their names. Tired of them living rent-free in my head. Anyways, let's go Padres. You guys have a great weekend.
Thank you, Brandon. Appreciate the phone call. Always a bright spot of positivity. That's how you get Brandon on the air. Full article on ESPN.com that lays out how this came about with Craig Stammen. It's very interesting stuff. We also have some situations where it lays out like why he put himself in the ring and everything that the Padres loved about Craig Stammen. Quote, Craig Stammen has been a strong presence in our organization for nearly a decade. He possesses deep organizational knowledge and brings natural leadership qualities to the manager's chair. As both a player and in his post-playing career, Craig has displayed an ability to elevate those around him. His strength of character, competitive nature, and talent for bringing people together make him the ideal choice to lead the Padres. That is the biggest reason why the Padres hired Craig Stammen. It's the person that he is. And again, as mentioned so many different times before, when it comes to this team and when it comes to managers and MLB managers, you want to have guys that can control the clubhouse and guys that can put the clubhouse forward and get the most out of the clubhouse. That's what you're looking for. And what Craig Stammen does and what he is as a person is one of those is the perfect candidate for a new generation of MLB managers. Strong presence in the organization for nearly a decade. That means he's not just sitting behind the scenes not doing anything. The guy is active in the organization. But what was said by AJ Preller in that statement, the most important thing that I think of why he was chosen over everybody else? We'll talk about it when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97 through the Fan. This hour 97 to the Fan is poured by, that's kind of fun, poured by AleSmith Brewing. AleSmith is turning 30 with a tiki party. Join the celebration this Saturday starting at 2 p.m. at the AleSmith Tasting Room in Miramar. Live music, silent disco, food trucks, slushies, special beer releases, and more. Don't miss the 30th anniversary party at AleSmith. And remember, tune in at 1 o'clock remember to listen at 1 p.m. for us to announce today's biggest fan for a chance to qualify for a night in our Odyssey suite at a future Padres game with all of the fan staff. Register your name at 97tothefansd.com/biggest fan in order to potentially have your name called. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Talking about Craig Stammen being the new Padres manager. There's something that was said in a statement by AJ Preller that I think is the biggest reason why Craig Stammen got this job over everybody else. We're going to talk about that in just a second. But first, let's get back to the phones. Kevin in Chula Vista have been waiting on hold for a long time. What's going on, Kevin? Kevin, are you there? He is not. Waiting on hold too long. All right. Here's what was said that I think is the most important thing. At the beginning part of this statement is that Craig has been a strong presence in our organization for nearly a decade. That's most of the stuff. You're going to get that a lot out of these statements. Quote, he possesses deep organizational knowledge, brings natural leadership qualities to the manager's chair. If you listen to any interview that Craig Stammen has done since he retired, your initial thought is that guy could be a manager one day. Now, as both a player, this is where I think it's the most important. As both a player and in his post-playing career, Craig has displayed an ability to elevate those around him. His strength of character, competitive nature, and talent for bringing people together make him the ideal choice to lead the Padres. Here's what you need to know about leadership. And we go through these things all the time. Okay? We talk about this all the time at different levels. Because I talk about, as somebody that coaches younger kids, you try to find the leadership from the players and you try to teach kids about leadership. And one of the coolest things, or one of the best things I've heard about leadership, there's a couple of them. One is leadership is taking responsibility for results, which I believe Craig Stammen will do. But the other thing is you don't necessarily have to be the best player on the team. You don't have to be the best person in the group to be the leader. You got to be able to be the person that leads by example, does everything the right way, displays everything by the hard work that you put in. And you have the ability to elevate the people around you and get the most out of them. And what have we talked about? How what you were looking for in a manager? Looking for, especially with this team, somebody that is going to get you the most out of your star players. Because last season, that's where things went awry, was the star players. And they got to be able to get those star players to play at their highest level and their best of ability. As both a player and in his post-playing career, Craig has displayed an ability to elevate those around him. His strength of character, competitive nature, and talent for bringing people together make him the ideal choice to lead the Padres. 100%. That is the reason why he was hired. And if you look at the other candidates, at least the ones that we know about, was Albert Pujols going to be able to do that? I thought he would be able to do that for a couple of players, but there were some question marks with him as well. There were some question marks about, could he do this being the player that he was? Could he do this and not make it about him, right? There was that ego value that I think a lot of people were worried about. Craig Stammen is the type of guy that was always putting the Padres first. He got asked to pitch in a playoff game in 2020 when the team needed it, when they had no starting pitching left. He was the guy. And he went out there and got the job done. But everything you know about Craig Stammen, and I encourage you to go look up his story on how he became a pitcher at Dayton and how he was able to turn that into a career at the Major League Baseball level. The fact of the matter is, it's how he got to this point in his career is also the biggest reason why he was hired to this point. He has all the intangibles of being that man, of being a guy that can lead a team with stars and lead a team with young players. This is all part of the deal. His strength of character, competitive nature, and talent for bringing people together make him the ideal choice to lead the Padres. In this day and age of managers, it's not the X's and O's. I think a lot of that comes from the analytics department. I think a lot of that comes from the front office. I think a lot of that in Major League Baseball comes from different things. Sure, there are some human elements played in, but Craig Stammen, being the student of the game that he is and being the guy that has been there and done that before, at least in the sense of knowing what it's like to come out of the bullpen and be part of bullpens that have been lights out, these are situations that he's going to shine in. And Ruben Niebla is staying. Alden Gonzalez already reported it. Him working with Ruben Niebla, I have full confidence in the pitching staff. A big question for a lot of the other candidates, right? And I think the biggest question, because everybody's really upset about like, well, it's not Albert Pujols because of the star name of winning the press conference. You know what's more important than winning the press conference is winning games. And so I said the negativity at the beginning part of like all the things that I had problems with or all the things that didn't make a lot of sense. But as you look at it and what you're looking for in a manager, these are all the intangibles you would want. And with every single manager that the Padres could have hired, there was going to be a lot of reacting immediately. And so you look at what Craig Stammen can bring and what you're looking for. What was the biggest area of concern for the Padres? Trying to get the most out of their players that you have under contract. I think you can do that. A lot of these guys have played with Craig. They know what he's like. You don't have anybody on this team that played with Albert Pujols, at least not off the top of my head. And the other thing, too, is, you know, one of the big question marks for Albert Pujols, which I was going to get to, is the whole managing the bullpen and being able to manage the late innings and all that sort of thing. You don't have to worry about that with Craig Stammen and Ruben Niebla. Now, the next thing is, what is the bench coach going to be? Hitting coach? How's this staff going to play out? Because they can still add pieces to this coaching staff that facilitate maybe some of the weaknesses around Craig Stammen. Craig spent 13 seasons in the majors, mostly as a relief pitcher. The last 6 from 2017 to 2022 were spent with the Padres, where he was lauded for his leadership qualities and seen by many as a glue guy in their clubhouse. The glue guy of the clubhouse. A lot of these players that are stars now on the Padres in 2025 going into 2026 are guys that were part of that clubhouse in 2022 that Craig Stammen was the glue guy for. That is somebody that you want leading this team. That is somebody that you want being at the forefront. And here's the other thing, too. When you look at Craig Stammen, he is a best example to represent your organization. There is nobody else that you would rather have represent your organization than a guy like Craig Stammen. I think Nick Hundley could be that guy. I think Ruben Niebla is a great guy to represent your organization. Craig Stammen represents your organization at a high level. He was voted to be the recipient of the Roberto Clemente Award as the representative for the Padres. He made 333 appearances, which ranked 5th in team history as a bullpen arm. He announced he would retire in August of 2023 in the wake of a spring training shoulder injury, and was subsequently hired to the front office for a role in which he altered helping at the major league level and assisting in player development. Did that immediately. The Padres loved Craig Stammen so much, they didn't even want him to leave after he retired. Again, it's not a sexy hire. It's not the press conference hire. It's not the big splash that I think a lot of Padres fans were thinking. But as we see in the YouTube chat, I think people are starting to really warm up to the idea of this guy being the manager of the Padres. And the more I talk about it and the more I look at it, the more I'm really on board too. You are going to get some type of question mark with a lot of these candidates. But with Craig Stammen, he's a guy that's been part of the organization for a long time. He's a guy that relates well to this team. He knows these players. The players know him. They know what he's all about. They know the career that he has had. And the fact that he's the glue guy and one of, at least as Eric Hosmer said, one of the best teammates he's ever had, these are all reasons why he won the job over everybody else. And no, it's not a yes man hire. It's this guy is part of the. He understands what the goal of this team is. He's been on this, or he's been part of this organization. He's been in these teams that have competed for a championship, have competed for a World Series. Guys that understand what's at task. He understands the community of San Diego. Not all these candidates were going to be able to understand the community of San Diego. The guy lives here. He's planted roots here. He's not leaving. And now he's the manager of the San Diego Padres. Again, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. The more you talk about it, the more you can really dive into how this is the best choice out of what they had available to be the manager of the San Diego Padres. So he's now going to be the sixth full-time manager under Preller, following Bud Black, Andy Green, Jace Tingler, Bob Melvin, Mike Schilt. Padres are still seeking their first World Series championship in franchise history. They have made the playoffs 4 of the last 6 years, 3 of the last 4 years. And last month, after winning 90 games and finishing second in the NL West, they were eliminated by the Cubs in a decisive Game 3 of the wild card round. Padres are expected to seek starting pitching and at least one impact back this offseason, but Stammen will inherit a core group of players who should make them instant contenders again. Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis Jr., Jackson Merrill, Joe Musgrove, Nick Pivetta, Mason Miller. The announcement comes in the wake of several unconventional manager hires that have taken place this offseason. That's the other thing, too. Teams are getting creative with their managerial hires because, again, it's less about the game and the numbers, and it's more about the personalities and what's in that chest muscle. You had a college coach hired, Tony Vitello, by the Giants. That guy's got no experience managing MLB players. You have a 33-year-old Blake Butera who just signed on with the Nationals to be the manager. You have Kurt Suzuki, who's another rookie manager, who only got a 1-year deal with the Angels. And now the only team that is left to look for a managerial hire are the Colorado Rockies. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Let's get out to Kevin in Chula Vista. He's back. Waited on hold a long time. What do you got for us today, Kevin?
Well, everything that you've said so far, I can't argue with, Braden. I mean, every new manager is going to go through a honeymoon period, and we're going to put all sorts of sugar coating on it, and everything's going to be wonderful, and I can't argue with that. That's part of the process and the deal. We will find out as time goes on what we really have here when you have an 8-game losing streak and you've got some major injuries and you've got Fernando possibly sitting in the corner pouting as usual. I mean, these are the times when we'll find out just exactly what we have here in Craig Stammen and how he handles that. I will say for sure I will enjoy his press conferences a lot more after the games than Mike Schilt, and I think that's going to be a tremendous relief for everybody. So what we also know here is that AJ's track record with managers over time, this is a fact, is not good. And so how long this guy lasts based upon the history of AJ and the managers, who knows? But so far we do know it's not very good. The last thing I will say is that what I found interesting in the interview that he did with the morning show, I didn't hear AJ specifically say this was his first choice. This was his hiring alone. It sounds to me like it was more of a committee, which I think is a little bit unusual considering what we've been through in the past with AJ. I'm not sure at this point that AJ's coming back. I kind of think that there's other things going on behind the scenes. It's very odd that you have a guy that is a lame duck manager making a decision like this. So we'll see what happens. We'll see how it all plays out. Lots of sugarcoat and lots of candy right now, which is fine. Let's have it.
And you know what? I think it's fair to Craig. You can't set the guy up for failure because it's not fair to Craig Stammen, right? They're going to set him up for success. They got Ruben Abel's not going anywhere. That's probably also part of the negotiation that they had for the last week or so, and putting it all together and informing the candidates if they're in, candidates that they're out, and probably, again, trying to keep Ruben Abel on the staff. And we'll see what other hires that they decide to make on this coaching staff. But the thing with Craig Stammen is until he puts the product on the field, you got to give him an opportunity. You got to give him the opportunity to go out there and win. You got to give him the opportunity to win the press conference, which I think he could totally do. The name is the only thing that's, triggered a lot of people freaking out at the beginning part of the day of, really? Because when you see a surprise hire and you see it's going to be the fourth guy, right? The guy that nobody knew about, and it's a former player from a couple of years ago, that's going to shake a lot of heads. But you got to give this guy a chance to succeed. And based on his interviews that he has done since retiring from Major League Baseball, and since, and all of the interviews that he had done as a Padre, he knows his baseball stuff. He knows it. And when you look at managers now in Major League Baseball, what guys are getting hired? He is a guy that has the experience of being able to bring a clubhouse together. He might have done it as a player, but his last couple of years, let's not forget, Padres fans, his last couple of years in San Diego as a pitcher, he was kind of more of a coach than a player anyway. Was he not? I mean, he was a big factor in that bullpen, and guys gravitated toward him. They gravitated toward him being that player leader in the bullpen. And even some of the younger pitchers had gravitated toward him. These are all different things that bring Craig Stammen to the forefront as the manager for the Padres. You're looking for somebody that can lead the organization and do it in a representation of the organization the right way. Craig Stammen is that. You're looking for somebody that can really get the most out of the clubhouse and keep the vibes going in the clubhouse. He was the glue guy on all of these Padre teams, as said by multiple players. That's another big check mark for you. He's a former pitcher. He's going to be paired with Ruben Niebla now. He's going to be able to manage the bullpen. He's going to be able to make the right decisions in game. I mean, he checks the box of everything. The only thing that's scary for a lot of Padres fans where you didn't see it coming. And he's a name that a lot of people didn't have time to really look into. I mean, think about this. What was the reaction like the first day that it was announced that Nick Hundley was potentially a candidate for the Padres? What was the reaction like? It wasn't great. A lot of people were like, oh, I can't believe this, because they're thinking about Albert Pujols. So from that perspective, as the weeks went on, people started to, okay, this is what we're going to get from Nick Hundley. This is what we're going to get from Nick Hundley if he becomes the manager. And they were starting to put it together like, oh, okay, this would make a lot of sense. I think we're in good hands. People said that about Albert Pujols because at the beginning, it was a big name, and there was a lot of people that were like, I'm not convinced. It took weeks to try to get them convinced on Albert Pujols. It took weeks to try to get people convinced about even Ruben Niebla staying, because a lot of people are like, well, maybe we don't want to keep this core together. It's the same thing over and over again. And then people are like, you know what? I could see this happening. Same thing with Nick Hundley. The difference is you didn't have that opportunity to go through everything with Craig Stammen as a manager. And so right now it's the initial, I can't believe this guy is available to be the manager, right? So that's where the initial reaction is. And now I think and how it's going to go about for the next couple of days, there's going to be a lot of conversation about, okay, I understand why this makes sense. I like all the things that are coming together with this staff, with Craig Stammen, what the players are saying, and it's going to move along. And then by the time the press conference happens, nobody's going to even care about winning the press conference. They're going to be fired up for Craig Stammen because I know he's going to do a great job at the press conference. So again, like for people saying should have hired someone with experience, the 4 finalists, none of them had experience. So it's not like they were going to go find somebody with experience. These were what the finalists were. And if you look at all the managers getting hired right now in Major League Baseball, most of them haven't had any experience at all. Most of them are doing this for the first time. But it's who you put on your staff and who you lean on and the players that you have that's going to help out any manager in his first year. Everything that we're hearing from the Padres players, from the organization, there's a big reason why this guy was hired over the other candidates. It makes a lot of sense. In the next hour, AJ Preller joined the morning show. We're going to hear what he had to say about this move for the San Diego Padres.
San Diego, it's time to fire it up. From the beaches to the ballparks, from the Gaslamp to North County, no one knows America's finest city like he does.
You can't just punt on a Manny Machado prime use.
He's a fourth-generation San Diegan, born and raised in the heart of this community. Passionate, opinionated, and always bringing you the real talk on your teams, your city, and everything in between.
Braden totally knows his stuff. He's ready for the next step. That guy is good.
Live and local, it's the Braden Surprenant Show.
But I think Braden's one of the up-and-coming young stars in the media game in San Diego.
Now, here's your host, Braden Surprenant.
What's up, San Diego? Lunchtime hour on 97.3 The Fan, San Diego's #1 sports station. Want to mention that all guests on 97.3 The Fan join us on the David P. Shapiro Fan Hotline. David P. Shapiro, criminal defense attorneys helping good people regain control of their future when charged with a crime since 2010. Visit davidpshapirolaw.com. Now, couple of things here. We've been talking about the managerial hire all day, as we've been expecting with the news was supposed to be coming down relatively soon anyway. And we want to hear your thoughts about the move. A lot of them have been, at the beginning it was negative, and people are starting to realize why this is a positive hire. And I'm one of those people. I think a lot of people from the get-go were bought into this and being starstruck by the name Albert Pujols. I admit, I am one of those people. You saw the Albert Pujols, Yadier Molina potential candidacy. And you saw that they had another interview. And it was like 9.5 hours for Albert Pujols. And that was like the big splash name. And it seemed like it was going to be the biggest one that the Padres have. And so that was I think a lot of people, myself included, with the initial reaction was like shocked at the Craig Stammen thing because of the Albert Pujols name. And then on top of the fact, not really prepared for a Craig Stammen hire. It was shocking to me. It really was. It was really shocking to me. And initially, without getting all the facts, I mean, it's a point where it's like, it didn't make a lot of sense. But the more you dive into it and the more you get to hear, and now the stories come out of what players think about Craig Stammen and what the organization thinks about Craig Stammen and what Craig Stammen has done for this organization, the more you get excited about him representing the San Diego Padres. That's part of it. At the beginning, you're like, oh, really? And then you're like, wait a minute. He's viewed as the glue guy of the 2022 team. Because, again, when you were making this hire, you wanted to make sure that your top players could respect and play for whoever the new manager was. And so we thought, Ruben Niebla made a lot of sense. He'd been part of the team for a long time. Albert Pujols has had an impeccable career. He's one of those guys like, can Nick Hundley come in a little bit from the outside and be able to do that? That was a major question mark. Craig Stammen is that guy. These guys are teammates with him. You can say what you want about Albert Pujols being the manager of the Padres, potentially, and it's like, here's his illustrious career. None of these players played with him. They just know about him. He's just like that mythical story. He's had a Hall of Fame career. But he's not part of this organization. For for Craig Stammen, there's enough players on this team that know what he was like as a player and know what he was like as a teammate. And so now, to me, it's not a question of can Craig Stammen manage a game. I think he could do that. I think naturally former players can do that, especially pitchers and catchers. And so from that perspective, when you look at managerial hires and you look at what you're trying to have the guy do, your initial thought is, can he manage a baseball game? The answer is yes. He absolutely can. Does he have experience doing it? No, but you got to get experience doing something. If you wanted to wait for him to go be a manager in the minor leagues first, and it's too much time and effort to do that when all of these new managerial candidates and all these new managerial hires are guys that have not a lot of experience. I mean, look at who just got hired across baseball. Look who just got hired the last couple of years across baseball. You don't need to have managerial experience in order to win. And if anybody, and I saw this earlier and I totally agree, if you think you know what a first-year manager is going to do, you're crazy. Nobody knows. It's just a guess. So in terms of managing the team in game situations, he gets a check mark right there. Craig Stammen does. I think that was more of a question mark for Albert Pujols than anything else. I think Ruben Niebla could have done that. I think Nick Hundley could have done that. That's a major check mark. And again, as we go through this, you're gonna understand why this has been the right pick. The thing is it was a shocking pick because it comes out of nowhere. And when you see some of the names that were finalists, you start thinking like, well, why didn't he get the job? Why are they going with this? Why were they going with Craig Stammen, part of the organization? I think it scares a lot of fans, thinking it's like, oh, this is just some safe hire. This is some lazy hire. It's a little bit of a safe hire, but they did their due diligence. So again, keep going through it. He's got to be able to manage the game. You don't have to worry about that. You're not going to make a lot of bonehead mistakes. The next one on the list, okay, and I think this was the biggest one for the Padres, was that respect level from the team. I think a lot of players were going to respect a guy like Albert Pujols. It's hard not to. With the resume that he's had, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. You know, that was going to be a situation in which everybody was going to respect Albert Pujols. Now, whether or not he was able to get the most out of the players, I thought he was going to, but it's never a guarantee. Ruben Niebla, I thought, would be respected by the organization, respected by the team. He's been part of the team for a long time. We talk to players all day long, and every one of them, especially the pitchers, can't stop talking about Ruben Niebla. So I thought that was going to be a plus for him. Nick Hundley, I think it would have been a little bit tougher of a sale for Nick Hundley to be the manager of the Padres in terms of like let's listen to this guy, especially for guys that didn't play with Nick. I think Nick Hundley would have worked out a lot better in San Francisco. Obviously, he didn't want to leave San Diego. But when looking at that particular decision, it makes sense for Nick Hundley, I think, would have fit better in San Fran because that organization knows him very well. Not to say that the Padres don't, because he spent a long time here in San Diego as well. But with Craig Stammen, you know these guys. He knows at least 6 of these players because he was teammates with them. And not only that, he's been part of this organization now. He's been part of this organization for the last handful of years. So he checks that box. And so far, if you're following along at home, when you look at all 4 candidates at the same time and the things that mean the most, the only ones right now that have a check for both are Ruben Niebla and Craig Stammen. Now, the last thing you want in a manager is to be able to represent your organization at the highest level. I mean, he is a reflection of you. He is the leader of the team. He is the leader of the clubhouse. He is the guy that's going to be the forefront all the time. You could talk about everybody in the front office, but the reality is the one that's wearing the uniform and that's going to represent your team that everybody follows, at least on the field, is the manager. And that, to me, you couldn't pick a better guy than Craig Stammen. I think Ruben Niebla would have been good too, but here's the best part. Out of all of the managerial candidates, and looking at it from a perspective of how they compare in the major categories you want in a manager, the one that checks every single box is Craig Stammen and Ruben Niebla. And guess what? Now you get both. Now you get both. So Craig Stammen's going to lead the team. He's going to be the manager. Ruben Niebla's going to be the pitching coach. And the other thing, too, here's the last thing. I thought out of the coaching staff, the ones that you wanted to keep the most, Ruben Niebla, Ben Fritz. Ben Fritz is staying as well. I saw that report from Dennis Lin. All great news. So that pitching staff that that needs to be addressed during the offseason is going to have arguably some of the best coaching in Major League Baseball. As Dennis Lynn reported an hour ago, Niebla has 2 years left on his contract. Multiple teams expressed interest in Padres bullpen coach Ben Fritz, but he recently received a new multi-year deal per sources. So the pitching staff is going to be locked in. You have a former pitcher as the manager in Craig Stammen. You have the pitching coach in Ruben Niebla, and your bullpen coach who has done such a phenomenal job with this bullpen. I mean, you could give Ruben Niebla as much credit as you want. Ben Fritz gets talked about a lot from the bullpen guys also. Now all of a sudden you have a staff that's definitely built for helping out a pitching staff. And maybe being able to save some money in the starting pitching market by getting players to come pitch for the Padres that might be on the cheaper side. Can they work with some guys and take another chance? They've had a lot of success doing that in the past. And so from all of those perspectives, this is why I have gone from I don't understand to now kind of fully understanding why they went the direction they went. It makes a lot of sense now. You have to kind of wait for some of the pieces to fall into place. But, you know, somebody at the beginning was like, I can't believe, like, why, what's the difference? It was shocking at the beginning of the day. It didn't make sense. And the more I learn about this and the more I see and the more reports and the more stories we hear, I understand why they decided to go with Craig Stammen. He's laid out to be a better candidate than everybody else. And I was sitting here going, I thought Albert Pujols would have been a good candidate. But when you look at the question marks for Albert Pujols and the question marks for Ruben Niebla and the question marks for Nick Hundley, the one that has the least amount of question marks is Craig Stammen. And that's reality. He's got the least amount of question marks. The biggest question mark for Craig Stammen is he's a rookie manager. But guess what? Everybody else was going to have that question mark. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. We are reacting to Craig Stammen being announced as the new Padres manager. He will have a press conference on Monday at 10 a.m., which we will air on these airwaves on Monday at 10 a.m. Let us know what you feel about the managerial hire. Give us a call, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. San Diego's #1 sports station, 97 through the Fan. This holiday season, too many San Diegans will go hungry. Join 97.3 The Fan and support the San Diego Food Bank. Donate food directly online through our Artisy San Diego Food Fund, where every donation helps feed local families. Go to 973thefansd.com and give today. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Reacting to Craig Stammen being announced as the new manager of the San Diego Padres. Let's get back to the phones. Ron in La Mesa, you're on the Braden Surprenant Show. What's going on, Ron?
Welcome to another chapter of Padre baseball. I got to tell you guys, I just got off the golf course. I was on the second hole today, getting ready to drive. My son yells out, "Hey, we just hired Craig Stammen." And I just immediately duck hook one to the left. So, yeah, I was a little bit shocked, a little bit surprised. Hell, I never even heard that he was up for the job. For some reason, they kept it pretty quiet. But you know what, Braden? If he's got the clubhouse and Rubenstein and the bullpen coach, hell, I'm all in.
Absolutely, Ron. I mean, this is like the conversation that we were having before. This is why it was like such a different. I mean, it's shocking at first. You get your natural reaction, and then all of a sudden you start putting the pieces together, and you're understanding why they made the hire that they made. It makes a lot more sense now with the way that players have talked about Craig Stammen, with all the reports coming out about Craig Stammen. I mean, it makes a lot more sense than it did a couple of hours ago. And I think a lot of people were caught off guard by that. So I see where you're at. I mean, I think a lot of people are starting to be like, okay, this makes a lot of sense now of why they picked Craig Stammen and why they kept it under wraps. I mean, they don't need to tell anybody what's going on. But Joe Musgrove has been super positive about this since it happened. He said he was shocked about it, but he mentioned that how much he loves Craig and how the Padres love Craig Stammen. When you got a guy that everybody loves in that clubhouse, they're going to play their ass off for that person. And that was the biggest question mark, I think, going into this was, could you find a manager that this team is going to be able to rally around? And what better player or what better manager than a guy that has played with a lot of these guys, especially the stars? That was the best part about this move. Again, at the beginning, it just seemed like, I don't know, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But the more we see the reactions and the more we unpack this thing as it's all happening in real time, this is going from like a safe hire to this is a pretty good hire for the San Diego Padres. And it's happened like as it goes on with more information that we get. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. I mean, you and I at the beginning were like, this just doesn't make a lot. It's making a lot more sense now, Frank.
No, it is. And I think how I reacted at the very least at the beginning was the fan caught off guard, instant reaction. What in the hell are we doing? But as I've sat here over the last 2 hours and as I've looked at articles, not just from today, but from the past and people talking about Craig Stammen, and I've texted with people that know Craig Stammen and how he works, and how he works with guys, the more I'm starting to realize that my instant reaction wasn't the right one. I mean, the more you learn and the more you think about it, it does look like a solid hire. And I understand the thought process behind why the reaction was. But I think the more you look at it, I do agree that the more you look at it, the more it does appear to be the correct hire for this team.
It's a surprising hire, but the more, again, this is why we said at the beginning, you got to let him do his thing, and you got to be able to see it. Your initial reaction to the judgment is fine, but at the same time, like, you got to be able to you got to be able to let the guy run his ship. And this is why I keep saying, I've said it since the beginning, I want to hear what he has to say.
And we said it last week as well. And funny enough, I'm the one that said it, was that if it's not going to be Pujols or if it's not Niebla, it's going to be an instant blech. It's going to be an instant get this away from me reaction. And we, the fans, and I said that we were also going to probably have a bias with it as well. Because of that, we've gotten so hyped up with Pujols, and because we've gotten so hyped up with Ruben Niebla, that the instant reaction, if it was somebody else, wasn't going to be a fair shake. And I also, partly because of where I grew up and the radio that I listened to growing up as a kid, it's exactly what happened. It's exactly what we did, I believe, in the first segment. And again, as you look at it more and more, the more and more you realize that our initial reaction wasn't the most educated of reactions, and eat it.
Well, I thought for sure at the beginning, even though it was shocking to me, was let's see what he's got.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to see what he's got. And I said at the beginning part of the show today, like, the story of Craig Stammen is phenomenal in everything that he's been through and how he got that scholarship to Dayton and how he made it through and how he played at Dayton to ultimately lead to being on the Nationals, to being in San Diego, to now being a big league manager. I mean, if you go back and ask, and I'd love to ask that question to Craig Stammen, and I've interviewed him before. I mean, he is such a nice person and a good man. But if you were to go ask scholarship-less Craig Stammen, who didn't think he was going to be pitching after high school, that he was a guy that was going to be a manager in Major League Baseball, what do you think that kid would say? I mean, it's pretty remarkable, the story that he's had. But the fact that the clubhouse loves him so much is a huge factor, I think, in why he ultimately won the job and why he was picked to be the manager of the Padres. And again, until you see his product on the field, you can't really make too much judgment about it. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Clay in the South Bay. You're on the Braden Surprenant Show. What's going on, Clay?
Hey, gentlemen. I mean, hey, I'm pretty happy with the hire. I mean, a fellow Ohio guy comes to San Diego to be the manager of the Padres. I mean, hey, if it wasn't him, it would be me. I mean, I think he's a good fit, and I hope he keeps the clubhouse the way he is. He can relate to the players. He can pursue the institution's goal of getting us to a World Series and winning, hopefully, and have a parade. I'm real happy with the hire.
Yeah, the more I talk about it, Clay, and the more I look at it, the happier I am with the hire. I mean, again, the initial reaction was, it was shocking to me, surprising. But all the intangibles that he brings makes it a good hire for the San Diego Padres. Is it the press conference hire? No. But as we've mentioned before, and when we were skeptical about Albert Pujols at the beginning part of this entire process, it was all that matters is winning games and not necessarily winning the press conference. And on Monday, I mean, Craig Stammen has an opportunity to win the press conference. I mean, aside from like what you know of Craig Stammen as a player, you haven't been able to hear him in terms of his goals, in terms of his conversations he's had with players, in terms of what he would do as a manager. You haven't heard any of those. And you might hear those coming up on Monday and hear what he's got to say. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. When we come back, we're going to hear from AJ Preller. He was on the morning show today discussing the process, the hiring process of Craig Stammen and the intangibles that they saw as an organization. We'll hear from AJ Preller when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. This hour of 97 to the Fans brought to you by IHOP. Introducing the IHOP Value Menu, where all your breakfast faves are just $6 each every day. Where else can you get a big filling sit-down breakfast for only $6? Go to your Happy Plates with the $6 IHOP Value Menu. Available every day at IHOP, $7 in some locations. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant, reacting to the hiring of Craig Stammen. Again, the more you look into it, the more you buy into it. I mean, it's awesome to see. But you look at what Craig Stammen brings and all the intangible he brings. He's a great baseball guy. The biggest concern I had with this managerial hire for the Padres was whether or not the clubhouse would respect the new manager and if he could get the most out of him. And the more you hear from the player's perspective, the more bought in you get on a guy like Craig Stammen. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Let's get out to Brad and El Cajon. Brad, you're on the Braden Surprenant Show. What's going on?
Hey, Braden. Hey, Mark. What's going on? Sorry, anyway, I really was looking for Rodriguez. I really wanted him. Just for that continuity, for that in-house clubhouse culture.
You talking about Niebla?
No, I wanted Rodriguez, our hitting coach, to keep Niebla where he was. I wanted to keep Niebla as a pitching coach and have Victor, just because I watched the guys, just they show that dugout. They'd all have their arms around Victor. They all loved him, and it's kind of like what you're talking about with Stammen. It's exactly what I wanted. Someone they love. To me, a coach is a leader of men. That's what he's got to be. He's got to be able to, blend with all the personalities and just get the best out of them with his personality, so to speak. And yeah, if you have these guys that are just rubbing people wrong, or they're just outside the organization, I wasn't up for a Pujols for that reason. I wanted Phil Nevin second, and so when I heard Stammen, I was pleasantly surprised. I'm happy with it. Like you say, guys seem to love him, and he's just in-house guy. He's just keeping that. I hope keeps that culture going. And I really like what we've got going right now, culture-wise. So. And I'd like you to expand. Maybe I just kind of got on about 10 minutes ago about how, like you mentioned, like the more you've learned, like what are some specific things you've kind of learned that you keep kind of mentioning that, have made you feel better about the hire?
Well, for me, a lot of it is the player reaction to it. And it's not just like initial reaction where, they're always going to say something positive, but going back and people pulling old clips of Craig Stammen and old clips of his teammates talking about how he's the glue guy and how he held everything together when he was part of the organization, and a lot of the different intangibles that you need in a manager this day and age. I mean, that's the information that I like the most when it comes to this hire. And again, I think a lot of fans were ready to just, be all upset this morning seeing that it wasn't Albert Pujols, but I think it's the fall in love with the star name and then being shocked by Craig Stammen. But the more you look into it and the more you look into his ability to get the best out of the people around him and how much the other players respect Craig Stammen and how much that they love being around Craig Stammen, to me, that is where you win in the managerial process. A lot of the baseball stuff and the X's and O's, I mean, that's a little bit extra, but at the same time, that's a collective effort in most organizations. That's not just a manager in this day and age of Major League Baseball. That's a lot of different things. So I like the way that he holds people together. I like the way that he gets the most out of people. And again, a lot of the problems with the San Diego Padres have come from getting the most out of their top players. And if that is the main goal, which I think it is, they hired a guy that gets the most out of the people around him. That's what you love in a leader. That's what you love in a guy that's going to lead your team. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. I do want to get to some sound from earlier this morning from AJ Preller joining the morning show to talk about the managerial hire of Craig Stammen and how it came down to Craig Stammen versus everybody else, right? So let's hear a little bit from this morning's show when AJ Preller came on the airwaves. I'm waiting for the thing to load here. And the first thing was asked about was the process on hiring Craig Stammen.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously sat down with long list of candidates to start with, and I think from Craig, he's somebody that he's been in the organization. He's been big in terms of somebody that on the field was extremely hard worker, a player that was on our teams, led in on the field and also in the clubhouse. The last few years has been around the organization in uniform, working with Schulte and the coaching staff and the player group, also working with others in the the organization from the minor league standpoint, and then also with the front office. So, again, he's somebody that we have a lot of trust and faith in. He's somebody that, as a player, super prepared, and work ethic off the charts, and a guy that has a lot of respect in that clubhouse from a lot of people that work at Petco and the player group, and we're just really excited about him as a choice.
And for all of those reasons, I mean, the most important thing is the clubhouse to me. That is what gets it done, is how the clubhouse views and respects a guy like Craig Stammen. That to me is the most important thing. I mean, the X's and O's are one thing. I don't really care about that. I mean, to me, it's how does this clubhouse, how does this current team respect a guy like Craig Stammen? I think he's got to bring a lot of great intangibles to the pitching staff. I think him paired with Ruben Niebla and Ben Fritz is going to be huge for this Padres team. And hopefully they can make some magic happen with some hires, or should I say signings, during the offseason to improve the pitching staff. And they're going to need a lot of help with the pitching staff. And so it might be the right play to go with a pitcher as the manager, keeping Ruben Niebla, keeping Ben Fritz, and being able to make what you can out of the arms that are available this offseason that you can afford. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973 if you want to join the show. We are listening to some of the clips from this morning from AJ Preller joining the morning show talking about this hire. And a lot of people are worried about the experience, right? So he doesn't have any experience. Well, neither did any other candidate. And a lot of teams in baseball right now are hiring guys that don't have experience. Was experience a factor in this decision process?
No, I mean, experience always is a big factor. I mean, I think we talked to a wide range. We some names that are reported, some names not, but we talked to ex big league managers, longtime coaches. We've talked to people in different spots, and I think to me, I think you look throughout the league, successful managers that come from all different areas. So like you mentioned with Bob and Mike, we had two managers that had been managers elsewhere previously and had that experience. But again, it's more about the person, the individual, and the fit with the team. I think you look throughout the game and you study it. Some people that have big league experience, some people have coaching experience, some people have come from the broadcast booth, some people have come from the front office ranks, some people have come from the college ranks. It's really just getting the right person, the right individual, and Craig's got those attributes in terms of leadership and character and organizational knowledge and somebody that's very talented. And I think for those reasons we felt like he was the guy that we wanted.
AJ Preller joining the morning show earlier today, talking about the hiring of Craig Stammen. Here's the other clip that I wanted to hear the most. It's his relationship. It's Stammen's relationship with the current players, because this is where I think it came down to the most. I think it came down to this as the deciding factor for the managerial hire. Nick Hundley doesn't have that much experience with some of these players. Albert Pujols knows some of these players, but doesn't have that kind of experience with some of these players. Craig has been part of the organization. And I think the more you look at it, Craig Stammen and Ruben Niebla checked a lot of the boxes. For a manager. And so they decided to go with Craig Stammen. But here's what Preller had to say about Stammen's relationship with current players.
Yeah, I think it's a factor, for sure. I mean, I think, again, I think the fact that Craig knows, our players, our team, he played with, guys on the team. He's able to hit the ground running from that standpoint. And you talk about experience, his experience has been in that clubhouse, and then the last few years, around the coaching staff and, around the group as well with a different perspective. So, I think for us, I think the ability, we have a good team that we think, obviously has been in the playoffs here the last couple of years, and the core of the team that should be returning. So, the fact that Craig knows those guys well, played with some of those guys, and knows the organization in and out, our staff and our players, that was a definite factor for us in the decision.
Of course it was. That's honestly one of the most important things that needs to be discussed. And again, that relationship with current players. You were trying to find somebody like that. You were trying to find somebody that had experience in the Major League Baseball. I think this group of players does a better job of, or should I say, this group of players is looking for somebody that can relate to them as a player. Mike Schilt wasn't going to get fired. He was going to stay the manager here. He decided to retire. But at the end of the day, he never played professional baseball. It's hard to relate to that guy. Craig Stammen is the guy that can relate to some of these players because he was a player like 2 years ago. It wasn't very long. So I like that. And this is why he was part of this equation. This is why they ultimately went with Craig Stammen. His relationship with the current players, I think, goes a long way. Anything about the coaching staff? Here's what AJ Preller had to say.
Yeah, I mean, again, like we've been, we've had honest conversation with the staff members. If some of the staff members, we let them know that as we go through the process, they could reach out and talk to other teams. It's I think for us, a lot of the staff members are under contract. They want to be back. Ruben, for example, he was in this process right till the end. And he brings a ton of positive, both with the pitching staff, and what we continue to see is, he's like talking to him about the manager responsibilities. He's going to continue to add to the organization. We're going to continue talking to him and Craig will about his voice and how we make sure that that's spread throughout the clubhouse. But we've got a talented coaching staff. Craig will have the ability to shape it with some other voices that he feels like will keep adding to our team and our organization. But there's a lot of members of that staff that'll be back that are under contract and are excited about coming back and working with Craig.
That's another benefit. Another big question mark with the Padres in terms of their managerial hire was like, are you going to lose your coaching staff? That was a big plus to hiring a guy like Ruben Niebla was, well, he'll probably keep most of the staff. He'll probably keep most of these guys around. It will keep the continuity. And in hiring Craig Stammen, who was a part of this staff in some sort of fashion, now gets to keep most of the staff. So you get somebody that can relate to the players, somebody that knows these guys well, somebody that they all respect and adore, and you get to keep most of the coaching staff that you wanted to keep. They got to get a new hitting coach. They have a pitching coach at Ruben Niebla. They get to keep Ben Fritz. I mean, they're keeping a lot of the consistency and continuity, which is going to be beneficial for this team in the long run. And again, the more you dive into this, the more you listen to what everything is being said about Craig Stammen, the more you love the hire. Let's keep continuing about the whole conversation. Obviously, the biggest name in this deal was Albert Pujols. That's another guy that's never managed before. And he only gets to talk about it a little bit. Obviously, he didn't get the job, but here's what AJ Preller had to say about Albert Pujols.
Yeah, Albert was, it was, again, like, first class, and like, I mean, to me, it was very impressive in the process, as you would expect. I mean, obviously, talking to him, pretty easy to see, his experiences as a player, the way he was prepared and talked about what made him successful. I think for us, him getting down to that final interview and everything like that, you could see that, that's going to translate to players. He has a real want to do it. He went and managed an Escogido, on the winter ball team. So, again, these are, the conversation with him, with Albert, when we told him we were going in a different direction, he was super professional and just explaining, look, we started with, probably over 50 candidates on a piece of paper and, leading to Zoom interviews and first round interviews and then in-person interviews and, pretty detailed process overall with staff and ownership, and to get down to that final grouping, I think from him speaks a lot about his candidacy, and he wants to do this. I'm sure he's going to do this in the big leagues for a long time, but you can only hire one manager, and just let him know that, honestly.
AJ Preller on the morning show today talking about the hiring of Craig Stammen. Here's one more clip about it. How close were Craig Stammen and Mike Schilt working together in this capacity of him being really the special assistant to AJ Preller? But how close is he with a guy that was running this team the last 2 years?
Yeah, I mean, the last few years, for Craig, we, Mike and Josh, Don, myself, we ended up adding Craig, Alan Craig, and AJ Ellis as players that had come off the field that have been part of the organization. Mike wanted them around the big league team. They've kind of been throughout the minor league organization. He wanted them around the big league team, as to help him, to help the staff, and to help grow some of our players. So the unique role that kind of under the scene, maybe under publicized the last few years, that those three guys that have a ton of experiences and are have been around the Padres organization. They were involved, with Mike and the staff, on a lot of the conversations, and help messaging certain things to players and to staff members. So they're pretty familiar with the current processes. There's a lot of good that's been in place. I mean, obviously we've won a lot of games the last couple of years. So I think the fact that Craig's aware of that, has been a part of that, has seen that. I think he's going to have his own tweak on certain things, as he should. So I think the whole point of this process is, how do we take this to the next level? Right now we've been, a team that's been in the playoffs and 190 plus and challenged for titles. How do we take that to a team that, is playing on that big stage in October and, playing in a World Series game? So he's seen a lot on a day-to-day basis and been around it over the last few years. I think there's a lot of good there, but it's he now has the ability to go and shape that and make it better.
A lot of good things at AJ Preller this morning, talking about the new manager of the San Diego Padres, Craig Stammen. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. This is the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each and every day from 10 to 2 on San Diego's number one sports station, 97.3 The Fan. There's a couple of pieces in this article by Alden Gonzalez that I find interesting as part of the hiring process. It highlights some of the things that AJ Preller just said, but even another one that's very interesting to look at. I was going to get to Jay in San Diego, but he hung up. Let's look at it now. The Padres front office, led by Chairman John Seiler, Chief Executive Officer Eric Grupner, and President of Baseball Ops AJ Preller, initially made a list of roughly 50 potential candidates to replace Schilt, a source familiar with the process said. Roughly 10 of them sat in on video conferences that constituted the initial interview phase, and Stammen, who holds the title of Special Assistant to Major League Staff and Baseball Operations, was among the group of close to 20 Padres representatives asking questions of candidates. At the beginning part of this process, this is how shocking it was that he ended up becoming the manager. He was actually interviewing people and helping the Padres interview people for a job. The Padres have long held Stammen in high regard and saw him as a potential candidate, but at the time, a source said, Stammen himself was uncertain if he would take part. Later, after an initial phase, Stammen opted in and removed himself as an interviewer. That's pretty crazy. That's pretty crazy. Texas Rangers Special Assistant Nick Hundley, Padres pitching coach Ruben Niebla, and future Hall of Famer baseman Albert Pujols were also considered finalists in the search, though others could have been invited too. In the end, though, it went Stammen, who is now the only former pitcher to serve as a current manager in Major League Baseball. He went from, they had 50 potential candidates, and he helped interview candidates and then threw his hat in the ring and now is the manager of the Padres. And every time, and I've said this before, when you go back and you listen to interviews that Craig Stammen has done since he has been a player, and even when he was a player, you can immediately get the sense of this guy's going to be a manager someday. And now he gets to represent the Padres yet again. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. if you want to join the show and react to this. I think, I mean, at the beginning, we haven't had too many. I mean, most of the negative comments have come from the YouTube chat, but most people have been positive about the hire because of all the reasons that were just laid out by AJ Preller. And I said this in the opening segment. Joe Musgrove said, this is a right man at the right time. And Joe had a lot of things to say that have been circling on social media about how great it is to have Craig Stammen be the leader of their organization, have him be the leader of this particular team. And so you go back and you listen. That's why I wanted to replay the sound from AJ Preller this morning. But I like the hire now way more than I did before the start of the show. And a lot of it has to go with the relationship that he has with the team, how the players respect Craig Stammen, the relationship he has with everybody else as part of this organization. And it's a big reason why he won out in the end, because he hit all of the intangible things that the Padres were looking for, more than all the other candidates. And the best part is you get to keep one of the candidates. You get to keep one of the candidates and Ruben Niebla being part of the staff. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. If you want to join the show, 1 hour left as we continue on the Braden Surprenant Show, Standing Up Sports Station 97.3 The Fan. It's that time, Frank. You know what time it is?
Oh, finally.
It's time.
It's finally nap time.
No, it's not. You failed twice in a row about nap time. You don't take a nap at the 1 o'clock hour. You announce the biggest fan to start the 1 o'clock hour.
I'll figure it out eventually.
You know what? I'm going to need, when people sign up for these things, I'm going to need them to put a pronunciation guide on their names when they sign up. Can you just please write your name? I mean,
I think the winner was in our chat yesterday.
It
said
was.
It was Vessel with an F, so Fessel was how you pronounced it.
What did I say? Faisal?
That's how I would have pronounced it as well, to be fair.
All right. Now is the time for today's biggest fan. You have 10 minutes to call in to be qualified for our biggest fan contest. 833-288-0973. 833-288-0973. Today's biggest fan, Grant Seime? Is that how you'd say that? Seime? S-E-I-M-E. Grant Seime in Santee. You are today's biggest fan. You have 10 minutes to call in to be qualified for the biggest fan contest. Grant Seime. Grant Seime. How would you say that name?
I would go with Seime.
Seime?
That would be how I would say it.
Seime. S-E-I-M-E. Grant Seime in Santee. You are if you call in the next 10 minutes, you'll be qualified for the biggest fan contest. 833-288-0973. 833-288-0973. And now everybody else in the chat that isn't their name saying it's fake. That's like if you're gone to you're at a restaurant and it's a long wait. And they start saying Frank party of 3. And after 1 second, you're like, he's not here. Move on.
Wait a minute.
Snooze, you lose. No, Nate. Foul on Nate for bringing up 6'7". I still don't really get what that is.
He draws the foul. By the way,
did anybody else like that 6'7" cam that USD did? I showed that to my friend. She said, what's the dance for it? See if that's the person. She was like, what's the dance for? I guess this is the dance? Is this what you're doing? Huh? The 6'7" cam. Don't get it. We got some news involving the Colorado Rockies. Jeff Passan and Mary Kay Cabot. The Colorado Rockies are deep into conversations with Paul DePodesta to take over their baseball operations department, sources tell ESPN. While a deal is not final, it could be soon. DePodesta, am I saying that name right? DePodesta? Where's Clay? He works for the Browns.
Paul.
His name's Paul. He is currently the chief strategy officer for the Cleveland Browns and a longtime MLB exec. Sounds like he's leaving the Browns to become the head of baseball operations for the Rockies. He was the assistant general manager for the A's under Billy Beane and was a key figure in that book, Moneyball.
So he has been in baseball before.
DePodesta, as Adam says. DePodesta. He's the new Rockies guy.
And
Rockies are the last team that needs to sign or hire a manager.
And as Nate reminds us in chat, English are hard.
He was also a former general manager of the Dodgers about 20 years ago. Is that who Jonah Hill was?
Probably, I think so. Actually,
is it? It's possible. They hired Jonah Hill.
Let me see.
Looks like him.
They hired Jonah Hill.
I mean, it's a possibility.
No, Jonah Hill was supposed to be Peter Brand.
Oh. In 1996, DePodesta got his first baseball job with the Cleveland Indians, where he spent 3 seasons. Later in the season, he was appointed special assistant to the general manager. Later in 98, he then joined the A's organization as assistant general manager, serving as second in command of general manager Billy Beane. He was a key figure in Michael Lewis's book, Moneyball.
DePodesta, I don't think, was in the movie. At least not any of the main Cast.
He did spend some time as a Padre with the Padres. He was hired as a special assistant for baseball ops for the Padres and was promoted to executive vice president back on November 10th, 2008. Started his career with the Padres in 2006. In 2010, he was hired as the vice president of player development and scouting for the Mets by Sandy Alderson, with whom DePodesta worked with Alderson when Alderson was the CEO of the Padres. And then from there, he went to the Browns. He's been with the Browns since 2016. And now he is the person in charge of the Colorado Rockies. He was a special assistant. Yes, exactly. So that is who the Rockies have hired to be their new, was it president of baseball? Is that what they call that position now?
Believe so, yes.
The president of baseball, which is just the step above like a general manager. It's a higher pay rate. So he's got the job that AJ Preller has with the Padres. He just has it with the Rockies. So now they're a step closer to potentially signing a manager, and then everybody would be hired at this point in time. I was actually wondering when the Rockies were going to do this, because today when I woke up this morning, Frank, I kind of had a figure. I kind of figured that the Padres are going to make a move. Aside from the fact that Woodsy was at Disneyland with his kids, and the fact that we had a show built on football today.
Yeah, I actually got 10 hours of sleep last night.
So from that perspective, I think, yeah, he might have been Jonah Hill. I think Peter Brand is a different name just for the movie. That's a different story. Anyway, despite all of that, I thought we kind of figured we were going to get a manager today because free agency starts tomorrow. Can you go about free agency? Like, how do you start signing guys if they don't even know who the manager is, right?
Mm.
And so now for the Rockies, the same thing is in place. They kind of had a little bit of a timeline here that they had to get things done by. Because were you going to go into free agency and start missing out on, well, it's the Rockies, but are you going to start missing out on free agency because you don't have anybody to make those decisions? Are you going to let Dick Monfort do it for you? Probably not. At least now you can have a guy that's going to be in charge and maybe he can allude to the managerial process. But now they have to start the managerial process. They're so far behind for an organization that knew they were going to do this at the beginning part of the year. I mean, when did they fire Bud Black?
That was in like June, wasn't it?
Yes. It was early in the season. Right? I mean, Bud Black's been unemployed by the Rockies for a long time now. You knew that was going to be the case. And then I don't remember the timeline of when they got rid of their president of baseball. But I feel like they're super behind the eight ball right now in trying to put together a Major League Baseball team. I don't want to knock on the Rockies because it's low-hanging fruit. But I don't know what they're just so far behind. This is why, again, you're blessed to be a Padres fan right now because of like the disasters around you. The Angels hired their manager to a 1-year contract. Talk about confidence. A 1-year contract. I mean, what are the Angels doing? The Rockies just hired their guy that's supposed to come in and bring in players for free agency. They hired him the day before free agency starts. It's wild to me. And as pointed out, by the way, did you read this Bob Nightingale article today? This is why people don't believe what Bob Nightingale has to say. He talks about all these, so many things in his article were wrong about the report on Craig Stammen.
Oh, yeah.
He dropped in the Bruce Bochy conversation, which I don't think anybody, was that even really, was he really interested in the job? He just signed with the Giants to do something else. Was that even a legit deal? Maybe he was one of the 50 names. I don't know. But then they talked about how, like, Nick Hundley, I'm pretty sure Nick Hundley was the Texas Rangers special assistant last year. Was he not? I think he was.
Nick Hundley, I believe, was a part of the
Yes, he was
Rangers
just working from
yeah.
San Diego. He had it listed that he was the Padres deal. And then the other thing he put in this article, he talks about Craig Stammen and all that stuff. Stammen's stunning hire certainly tops Tony Vitello's hiring in San Francisco, leaving the University of Tennessee for the Giants, and Blake Butera's hiring in Washington. I don't think Stammen's surprise is more surprising than Tony Vitello, by the way. Vitello leaving Tennessee for any reason and taking a pay cut to go manage the Giants is shocking. Craig Stammen being part of the organization, surprising, not shocking. So the only surprise hiring that could top Stammen is if the Rockies turn to Paul Podesta as their general manager. Well, I guess that's been the most surprising thing of the day. He was the Dodgers GM 20 years ago. He's been with the Cleveland Browns chief strategy officer the last 10 years. He is Jonah Hill in Moneyball. They just used a fake name. All right. Try to put all the keys together here with that. Rockies hired Jonah Hill. That's not true, but it kind of is at the same time. It's funnier when you say they hired Jonah Hill. I kind of like it better than, I think I like it better than Paul DePodesta. But the guy Jonah Hill plays in Moneyball is who the Rockies hired to be their director of baseball ops. There you go. Then the more you know. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. We're talking about Craig Stammen being the manager of the San Diego Padres. Again, the more you look at it, the more you like it. You have to take a deeper dive into everything that's being said about Craig Stammen to really fully understand why it not only goes from a safe hire to a good hire, but a good hire to the right hire. This is why Joe Musgrove at the beginning of the day said, right man, right day. Right man, right time. We'll talk more about that when we come back. Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego Normal Sports Station 97 through the Fan. Sad day. Didn't have the biggest fan calling today.
Yeah, that was our first one.
First swing and a miss.
Morning.
It's okay. Took a strike. Morning show have theirs today?
Morning show is still perfect.
Nice.
Afternoon show is 1 for 3.
By the way, I don't know if this is going to get addressed in the afternoon show. With the news, I think Ello's fired up about this for a couple of reasons, and it could have been anybody. I had 5 text messages last night involving Chris Ello. 5 different people.
What happened with that?
Well, he was playing softball last night.
Okay.
He might have departed before the game ended against his will. I'm just going to leave it at that. He might have departed before the game ended, not by choice, nor injury. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
No, I know what you mean. I don't know what happened.
Is
but-
this the first time Chris has left a softball game before the game was supposed to finish without injury? No, it is not. In fact, I was there the first time that happened. The first time he was arguing balls and strikes.
Oh, God.
But in his defense, like,
is it slow pitch or fast pitch?
It's slow pitch, yeah.
With the high arc and
Yeah.
and the mat.
That was the first time. Yeah, with the mat and all that, that was that. Apparently, this time it was a play at the plate. And I was told from people out, the sources, that he basically told the umpire to do his job. Johnny in the chat said on his way out, because he was there last night, I still love you, Mr. Ello. So there you go. I just, you know what? Did I say those remarks? No. All I said was, multiple sources had reported that Chris might have left the game early against his will, and he wasn't hurt. Just multiple sources.
Multiple sources also reporting that GTA 6 has been delayed again to November.
I don't like that news. You want to know why I don't like that news? I don't play GTA, nor do I care. Okay? Never been into GTA.
I'll just say it's a great day.
No, hang on. I'm getting there. Now, here's the problem. Who makes that game, Frank?
Rockstar.
Rockstar makes one of my favorite games ever.
Mm-hmm.
And they said they cannot make said game until certain game is released. And so, as the cowboy-loving nerd that I am, go ahead, play it. Go ahead. Nerd! That makes me sad.
I didn't hear there was going to be a third one.
There's been rumors that once GTA is done, they are thinking about a third one.
I haven't played the second one in a while.
The second one is great.
Amazing.
I've played the second one 3 times, start to finish, unlocking everything.
That's impressive.
I kind of
wait.
My alley.
With games like that, I kind of wait until I've forgotten most of the storyline, so it's kind of like playing it for the first time over again.
First time through for me, all the way through. Okay, you just go through. You just go through, and you just do the storyline. You don't do the side hustle stuff.
Yeah.
Right. First time through. Second time through, this is the deeper dive. This is where you go explore, right? And you run into some crazy S. That game has some crazy S in it.
Yes, it does.
Some really bleeped up stuff in that particular game. There's a reason why it's for mature audiences only. A lot of historical things in there. That's where I get super jazzed up for. But yes, the Red Dead series. Red Dead 2 was amazing. Red Dead 1 was...
Red Dead 2 was incredible.
Red Dead Redemption 2 was phenomenal. I don't know how they're going to top it, but it was great. If they could make another one, that would be even better. I don't know what storyline you would do. Maybe do another prequel or whatever. But so that news about GTA being out,
Yeah, that's now. Yeah, that's November 26th now.
Red Dead 2 was fun. It made one cry, apparently.
Made me too.
It's a tough finish.
That was a rough ending.
Rough ending. R.I.P. Arthur.
Yep.
833-288-0973. 833-288-0973. Ralph in Chula Vista. You're on the Braden Surprenant Show. What's going on, Ralph?
Brandon, how you doing, man?
Doing well. What do you got for me today?
Listen, I want to first just come off right off the bat and tell you that I do agree that you are the next great and up-and-coming talent in San Diego.
Thank you, Ralph.
But I'm gonna call you out. I'm gonna call you out because we're not calling this hire what it really truly. You're not calling this hire what it truly is, and that is it's a yes man hire. This has Chase Tingler screaming written all over it again. Now, Chase Tingler, when he came on board, he was a yes man for AJ. He did what he was told. Give him some credit. Fernando was just coming around the corner here. Manny was getting his heels dug in. Fine. Then we hire Melvin. Then we hire Schill, who are two guys that are going to be like, no way, dude. I'm running this ship the way I'm going to run it. Right? Now we have a hire in Craig Stammen. Right? This is a guy who's just going to do exactly what he's told. Now, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. The team is coming around. We've got some bullpen talent, obviously. We've got some leadership that, is where it's at now. So maybe, just maybe this time around, the yes man strategy will work. But when you had Albert Pujols on the hook, on the line, the way you had him, with that long interview that he had, I mean, why let that go?
Right, Ralph, and I see where you're coming from that perspective. I think that's why this, hire at the beginning of the day was so shocking to a lot of people. And again, I think it goes a lot back to the Albert Pujols side of the stardom, right? I don't think it's a yes man hire. I really do. I think a lot of people want it to be to prove a theory that they think this is a yes man organization. I think that's where a lot of people are coming from on that. I don't think it's a yes man hire. I do think that Craig Stammen being a guy that can help with the clubhouse is a huge deal. And to be honest with you, I'm telling you, the way that players are talking about Craig Stammen in the positive light that they are, and you go back to interviews and go back to other things that are populating now on social media that were done in the past, not currently, not like right after the hire, right? But in the past about Craig Stammen, you will start to understand why this is the best hire for the Padres out of the four. We've kind of come to that conclusion hour by hour on why it is the best hire for the Padres. And I was skeptical at the beginning. I'm not going to lie, I was. But the more you hear from the players and the more you see the trends going in Major League Baseball, the more it makes a lot more sense. You want somebody part of the organization that knows what the end goals are. You want somebody that the players respect. I was hesitant about the player respect of Craig Stammen and Nick Hundley out the gate because those are two relatively outside guys compared to Ruben Niebla. And then, even though Albert Pujols is an outside guy, he has had such a great resume that players would definitely respect him. But you look at Craig Stammen and what he has been about in this organization and what the players that have played with Craig have said and the ones that are currently on this team that played with him in 2022, they continue to say what a great man he is, how much respect they have for him. And the thing that really sold me is the whole fact that he was the glue guy of that 2022 team. That is what you were looking for in a manager. So you wanted to get the guy that was going to get the most out of the clubhouse. He elevates everybody around him, as said by AJ Preller. That checks off the box. And then when it's comparison, again, you want to compare the four candidates. This is why they hired this guy. He's internal. You don't have to change too much with the staff. The organization loves him. He's a good representation of the organization. And the players love this guy. They love this guy. They continue to say how much they love this guy. He's been one of their favorite teammates for some time. You can say what you want about Eric Hosmer. A lot of people don't like Eric Hosmer. Eric Hosmer flat out said that Craig Stammen was his favorite teammate of all time. He tweeted out today. He has no incentive to do that. Players gravitated towards him their entire career. I think you mix that with the fact that the pitching staff, who might be the biggest area of concern going into 2026, you have a pitcher that is now the manager. You have Ruben Niebla still under contract and the pitching coach, and Ben Fritz stays in the bullpen. That's a lot of great baseball mind and great pitching mind to an organization that needs to get the most out of pitchers that might not be the most expensive guys on the market. They're going to be active in the starting pitching market, but you know what? In order for this team to be successful, they're going to have to strike it rich and win the lottery again, like they did with Seth Lugo, like they did with Michael King, like they did with Michael Wacha. I mean, these are the players that the Padres have to be able to go in and get. And what sets you up for more success with these guys is having a guy like Ruben Niebla on staff, who's one of the best pitching coaches in Major League Baseball. You didn't let him walk away. That's huge. Having a guy like Craig Stammen, he's been there and done that. He's pitched in the major leagues for a long period of time. He started a playoff game for the Padres in 2020. Mixed in, you get to keep Ben Fritz, which it sounds like from Dennis Lin. Your pitching staff is solid. And this team is going to have to build off their pitching. They have spent the money on the position players, and this is a guy in Craig Stammen that's going to have to get the most out of their position players. And this is why he got the job. And this is why he has turned into, at least in my opinion now, a really good option for the Padres. I was skeptical at the beginning of the day. I was like, I got to see more out of this. And the more that came out, the more that made sense of why he is the man for the job, why the players are talking about it, why people in baseball are talking about it. They're surprised, but the more news gets out, the more the meetings happened, everything about it, it makes more sense. And it will continue to make more sense. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. We need to take a quick break. When we come back, Dexter, we will get to you. Anybody else that's on hold, we will get to you as we finish up the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97 through the Fan. I look at our rundown and just go like, oh, look at all these guests we were supposed to have today. We're working on getting Stacey Terry Hudson, San Diego State women's basketball head coach, on next week. Mark Neville, CEO of Sports San Diego, will join us tomorrow. Eddie Brown will join us tomorrow. No Skylar today anyway.
You said next couple of weeks with no
Next
Skylar,
2
right?
weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tell you what, she was better when she was picking at Disneyland anyway. So you know what? When she was locked in for 2 straight weeks, she ended up going 1-9.
Yeah.
In picks.
Not great.
Not great is right. So we'll have all of that to talk about. The Raiders play the Broncos tonight. Anybody know about that?
Oh, the Denver Broncos.
They're not bad, though, the Denver Broncos.
No, they're not.
You think Homer Simpson would change his tune on the Denver Broncos now? Oh,
No.
oh boy. I want a...
Yeah. Oh,
I
the
won
Denver Broncos.
That's right. I won an NFL team. The Denver Broncos. USD announced their baseball schedule today. That's fun. They got a couple of good teams coming to town. Michigan comes to town, and Oregon State comes to town. USD baseball will start the season off in Charlotte.
For those of you who didn't see, by the way, spring training schedule was released yesterday.
That's right.
Somebody had asked on the Padre Twitter when tickets will be available. Tickets will be available to the general public for spring training starting Monday, December 8th. So mark your calendar there.
833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Ben in San Diego, you're on the Braden Surprenant Show. What's going on, Ben?
What's up, guys? Hey, I've been listening, and I've been trying to wrap my head around it and see the good in this. But, you know, being a Padre fan for this long, you know what hire it is. Just like the guy said before, it's a Jay Tingler, Andy Green 2.0. Someone AJ Preller can control, someone who will push his agenda, someone who will send out his lineup. And if you want to say, hey, look, the clubhouse likes them, it's a change. Is that all it takes to be a Padres manager? To be nice and liked in the clubhouse? I mean, you can hire me. I'm nice. I'm likable. It's such a reach for me for Craig Stammen. Like, I can see bench coach. That's great. But it's just very confusing. I'll leave it at that. And let's not forget the great Craig Stammen, back-to-back home runs for the Padres. So that's our manager. And buckle up, boys, because I guess that's all we got.
I could see where Ben is coming from on some of that stuff. But I think that what scares people is what didn't scare people about Albert Pujols, they're scared about with Craig Stammen. It's like they look at the career resume in terms of like his playing career. You know, like they he brings up the back-to-back. I had post-game show that day. I remember I had to go set up the gear for the post-game show, and those home runs were happening as I was walking through the concourse. I was like, was that another one? Was that another one? Is that the fourth one? I think the guy handled himself well. He also won us a playoff game. But here's what, is that all it takes? Look at the Los Angeles, I hate comparing to the Los Angeles Dodgers. Look at the Los Angeles Dodgers. Why is Dave Roberts still employed there? Why is he still employed there? Not to say he shouldn't be employed, but why has he kept that job for all those years of disappointment for so many years, Frank?
Players like him.
The players love him. They love him. We in San Diego don't love him, but the players in LA love the guy.
Most of the LA fans don't like him.
Right. In this day and age of baseball, the winning on the field with the strategy is a collaborative effort for most organizations. To say that Dave Roberts is the only one pushing all the buttons up there, I would call foul. There's no way that's the case. It's a collaborative effort. And so what you're looking for in a manager, this is why these guys without a lot of experience are getting hired right now, because they know it is somebody that needs to get the most out of their players by being a clubhouse guy, by being someone that's going to keep morale up, that's going to, get these guys to run through a wall for them. But that is what you're looking for in a manager in this day and age. It's not like the old days where you get like some hard-nosed guy, right? That's almost like a football coach and, he's the X's and O's guy. There's no X's and O's in baseball. It's about managing personalities. And if these players that the Padres have love Craig Stammen, it's the right hire. It's the right hire.
Padres aren't done today either.
No, we got some news.
Yep, they have officially extended a qualifying offer to Michael King, which to be expected.
That was expected. You give qualifying offers to guys that you don't think are going to sign.
Correct.
So I can't imagine. Is there any reason why Michael King will accept the qualifying offer?
No.
Not really. It's a win-win for the Padres. If he accepts the qualifying offer, you get Michael King for $22.5 million. $22.05 million. Great. If he declines the qualifying offer, you get a draft pick on whoever signs him. And if you end up signing him, you don't get a draft pick. But guess what? You got Michael King back on the team. It's a win-win-win for the Padres. And I think the direction of the pitching side with this hire is a big reason of we got to find ways to get this pitching staff built. And we might have to do a lot of coaching to get that done. So that was the latest on that. Here's what Dennis Lin had today as well. It's very interesting. It was part of his article announcing that Stammen, who received a 3-year deal to become the rookie manager for a veteran team, and the 6th full-time manager under Preller, whose recently uncertain contract status appears to be coming into focus. Quote from the article, Preller has spoken with team chairman John Seidler about a multi-year extension, with club sources indicating that the Padres intend to finalize a new deal for the president of baseball operations before or around the time Stammen is formally introduced Monday at Petco Park. Beautiful. That's what you want. Now, is it going to be a 2-year extension? Because he's still under contract for this year, so he's out at the same time as Craig. Is it going to be a 4-year extension or a 5-year extension where you have a couple of years where maybe he can make it work? It's also a possibility. 13 players have been tendered qualifying offers. None of these are a surprise, Frank.
No.
Padres have tendered qualifying offers to 2 individuals, Dylan Cease, Michael King. Any shock there?
No, we absolutely expect that.
Zero shock value. Cubs outfielder Kyle Tucker. Surprised?
No.
DH for the Philadelphia Phillies, Kyle Schwarber.
No.
Shortstop Bo Bichette. No.
A little
kind
bit based
of
off
because
of
of
the
his
injury.
injuries.
Yeah, but no. Otherwise, no.
Framber Valdez.
No.
Ranger Suarez.
No.
Edwin Diaz.
No.
Zach Gallen.
No.
Shota Imanaga.
No.
Trent Grisham.
Yes. Honestly, yes.
Gleyber Torres.
Yeah.
That's a little surprising to me. Brandon Woodruff.
No.
So the 2 surprises are Torres and Grisham. Out of that list, are they the only 2 that are going to accept that offer? Remember, only 14 players have ever accepted a qualifying offer.
I think both of them will.
I think both of them will too.
Because I think Gleyber Torres, his time for that big contract is come and gone. I think he knows that. So I believe he's going to take it as his last chance to get big money.
No qualifying offer for Arise or O'Hearn.
Also expected.
Not surprising, because those are 2 players that would probably take it, and you can't justify paying Luis Arise $22 million. You also cannot justify paying, as much as I like Ryan O'Hearn, you can't justify giving him $22 million. Now is the fun part when it comes to the con. You got all the business side of things done, and people can cuss and discuss what they want about the managers. Nothing that's going to change it now. Craig Stammen is the manager of the Padres. I look forward to hearing him speak on Monday at 10 in the morning, which you can hear right here on 97.3 The Fan. And hopefully, based on the Dennis Lin report, they're announcing a contract extension for AJ Preller. That locks in stability for this organization, that you know who the leaders are for the next handful of years with a team that's under contract for many years. And if they get that part done, all of a sudden it makes it a little bit easier now for the situation at hand, which is adding to this pitching staff and adding to this roster. You need a big bat, you need some slug, and you need starting pitching in a bad way, a very bad way. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Let's get out to Dexter in Spring Valley. Dexter, what's going on?
I'd like to call a technical foul, please.
Tech.
Because the last 3 days I was on hold, and I thought I was going to be the last caller, and then you went right to the outro and left me hanging.
I got to give you enough time, Dexter. That's where we're getting to at 47 instead of 52.
Yeah. This is for my boy, before we get into the baseball thing, for my boy Long Island Frankie over there. When you mentioned Kyle Larson winning the Cup NASCAR Cup Championship Series, you forgot to mention one tiny little thing. And that is Kyle Larson is the only person of color to have ever won the NASCAR Championship.
Correct.
And he's done it twice.
Yes.
And so, NASCAR is considered a good old boy, Southern kind of sport. And Kyle Larson proves that it's now multicultural. Because Daniel Suarez actually broke the barrier. He broke the glass ceiling when he won the Xfinity Cup Series championship. So, he's the first person of color to win any NASCAR championship, but Kyle Larson is the first one to win the Cup, the major championship.
Yes.
So I was a little surprised you didn't bring that up. But that's okay. I understand. No, you and I are the only people who really love motorsports on this station, so it's okay.
We're going to be fired up about it around Father's Day next year.
Yeah, I know. And with JJ running, it seemed natural that he was going to be because it's in his backyard. So
Of course. What do you got for some of the baseball side of things today?
My response when it broke this morning, with Ben and Sammy this morning was more of like everybody else was acting crazy. I was just kind of like, because he has no experience, he has no track record. So I'm like, and like they were saying, and like you've been saying, he was the fourth unnamed candidate. That was named who was not mentioned. So I was kind of like going, well, since he's got no track record, we got nothing to compare it to. So we really have no reason to complain per se. I will say this though, I think he's the second Padre manager in the team's history who was a former player who had no track record to be a manager. The first one being, I believe, Larry Boa. And Larry Boa was a train wreck. Stammen, at least, he's going to hold the clubhouse together. Boa, nobody liked him. Nobody. I mean, he came in there hair on fire thinking he was Dick Williams Jr. And he basically was a factor that led to the eventual fire sale that the Padres had, where they were circling the drain. They had to get rid of all their good players. But I'm hoping that like you guys have been saying for the last couple hours, that Stammen's going to be a unifying factor, that he'll be able to rally the players together. Because what I've noticed is Bob Melvin in his second year, he burnt out. Mike Schultz, he tried as hard as he can, but you can kind of tell with how his problems with managing the bullpen, and then also letting Darvish repeat a Musgrove, where he's injured and he's out there starting, just like Musgrove did the year before. And both of them blew out their arms. So, for me, I'm kind of like, let's see, having a former pitcher, running this, because a lot of the money that they're going to be spending hopefully this season is going to be on arms, and hopefully having a guy who's been there in the trenches as a pitcher will be able to, I don't want to say nursemaid them, but at least will have a much more focused eye on preventing, history to repeat itself twice.
I agree with you, Dexter. There's a lot of stuff in there to unpack. Here's something that Annie Halburn tweeted out that I totally agree with. She goes, having covered Craig Stammen as a player with the Padres, he was a rare pitcher reliever who was seen as a leader in the clubhouse, even among the position players. He was highly respected and liked. How he fares as manager is unknown, but his tenure as a player was positive. I think there's something to be said about the fact that, think about from his perspective of like relief pitchers in general are never leaders of teams, hardly ever. They pitch every 5 days if they're a starter. You never know whether they're really going to pitch when they're a relief pitcher. Relief pitchers usually have a weird personality to them sometimes. They're like kickers in football. And so to have a guy like Craig Stammen, who's a relief pitcher, be what a lot of the position players saw as a leader in the clubhouse goes a long way. And that is why you have a lot of faith in a guy like Craig Stammen to be a leader of this team. Again, all I care about when it comes to the manager situation is, can they lead this group of players? The X's and O's stuff, well, that's going to come. He might learn the hard way a couple of times. That's going to come with experience. But the thing that it's hard to learn is how to relate to players in the clubhouse, especially a group of players that have a lot of contracts and a lot of egos, and it's all over the place. I mean, a very diverse group in that clubhouse, and a lot of them already respect Craig. And that's the best part. I think all of that is a huge factor. I think all of that is what ultimately gave the decision for the Padres and made it easy for him to hire Craig Stammen. I just like, the more you look at it and the more stories you hear and the more reports you get from people around baseball, once the dust has settled with the initial shock that he got named manager, the more you realize that you can run with this guy. You can win with this guy, and he can take you to that spot. It took me a lot of time today of trying to figure out what the decision process was for the Padres. And I get it now. It makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. Part of the organization, has never left the organization since being part of it, was right there the whole time, and knows everybody in this building. That's all the good news. And he obviously works well with AJ Preller because he's been doing it the last couple of years. So I think the more you start to lean into this and the more articles you read, the more people are going to be excited about this hire for the San Diego Padres. For Frank Marchese, I'm Braden Surprenant. This is the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each every day from 10 to 2 on San Diego's number sports station, 97.3 The Fan.